at My PhD Weight Loss.
Weather, a service of H&H Carpets, where right now, get a load of this, listen close, you get a house full of carpet for $19.95 installed. Unbelievable. They're located at 6450 Atlanta Highway, just across from Walmart.
Rich Thomas weather.
Hi, everybody. No big surprises in today's forecast. I think the radar could be a little busier than yesterday. Today's high temperature 90 to 92, lots of humidity, a sun and cloud mix, and there will be a decent supply of those random storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Low tonight in the low to mid 70s. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Independence Day Friday, highs mostly in the lower 90s, a little hotter by the end of the week. And not quite as many storms on the radar each afternoon. You could still get a very heavy downpour, but not as many storms. They'll thin out just a bit. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Hey, this is Jody Pangle with Peaches and Clean Powerful Carpet Cleaning. Have you been putting off your home carpet cleaning for a while? Give us a call at Peaches and Clean so we can bring your carpeting back to life. Check us out online at peachesandclean.com.
There's no clean like Peaches and Clean.
1819 News.
The men's basketball coach for Auburn University, Bruce Pearl, seems to be squelching any rumors that are circulating that he might run for U.S. Senator in 2026. Pearl was recently a guest on Fox News with host Brian Kilmeade.
Have you been seriously considering running?
I love my country, but I love being the basketball coach at Auburn. And as we're speaking right now, I'm in Atlanta, recruiting players. So, look, these issues matter to me. And it's really not about politics as much as about the survival of our country and what direction that we're looking to move forward.
I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
Are you enjoying 1819 News? If so, consider joining 1819 News as a member. As a nonprofit news organization, we depend on the support of Alabamians like you. Memberships start out as little as $5 a month, and you'll get access to exclusive content only offered to our members. You'll be supporting independent journalism done by people who cherish Alabama values. Become a member today by visiting 1819news.com and clicking Become a Member. That's 1819news.com and click Become a Member today.
An investigation is underway in Mobile after two women were hit by a car on June 27th. The two women had to be treated at a hospital after that incident. Police believe the driver of the vehicle was in a prior altercation with one of those women when she left the area and struck them. The owner of the bottling plant event center in Opelika has now sold that facility to Whistletop Bottle and Brew. Founder, owner, and operator Lisa Ditchkoff opened up that event center back in 2010, and it has played a large part in the ongoing revitalization of the downtown Opelika area. The center is popular for weddings, receptions, conferences, and smaller social events. I'm Andrea Tyson.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's News and Views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Fugazi. You know what Fugazi is?
No, Fugazi. It's a fake.
Yeah, Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not real.
Right, all right.
This is how you conduct yourself in a democracy?
Joey Clark.
Welcome into the program, folks, here on a, stormy week here in Montgomery, Alabama. I think it rained for 12 hours last night, something like that. This will be my final show of the week as I actually get to go on vacation. Looking forward to go see my brother and my little 2-year-old niece and enjoy some time with family. So also, last show of the week's always fun to put on. And joining us is regular time. He's back. We have the one, the only Judge Andrew Napolitano. Hey, Judge, how you doing?
I'm well, Joey. How are you? A vacation well-deserved for you, young man.
Yeah, I've never been to Nashville, so I'll have to see. And it's a new city. They just moved up there to them, so we'll explore the town together, I suppose. But It's really all about that little girl. She already has my heart, and I gave her a cookie. She stole my sunglasses.
Wait a minute. Bourbon has nothing to do with it?
I've lessened that since we last got together.
I was in a restaurant in Nashville, and I asked for a bourbon old fashioned. She said, "What kind of bourbon do you want?" I said, "What do you have?" She brought me a list that looked like the menu of a Greek diner in New Jersey with like 300 different bourbons on it. I only recognized 2.
I might have given a little bit.
Story. I was there to give a lecture somewhere. Maybe it was Vanderbilt. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't even know where to begin today. Of course, the big, beautiful bill, so-called, just passed the Senate. And I look at these things, and the omnibus bill strategy is always just a nasty pork-filled sausage mess. But one thing out of this is you saw the top advisor, one of them to Trump, Stephen Miller, for some reason going online and bashing the libertarian delusion. And I'm sitting here going, when have libertarians, like folks we know, folks we respect, ever had power in this country in the last few generations? And I don't understand how libertarians become essentially the whipping boy of our politics.
Trump is apparently terrified of libertarians. There's only 2 in all the 535 members of Congress, and he wants to get rid of both of them. They are the 2 most intellectually honest people there, Thomas Massie in the House and Rand Paul in the Senate. Rand Paul almost pulled off the unthinkable this morning. They were within inches of getting Senator Murkowski of Alaska to vote against this monstrosity, which adds another $3 trillion to the debt, which increases defense spending to $1 trillion a year. It's just mind-boggling about where that money can go. I guess they're going to continue to fund the 750 foreign military installations we have in 80 countries around the world, as we celebrate our secession from an empire. We have become an empire far greater and far more oppressive than the one from which we seceded, and this type of nonsense that passed by 1 vote. It's interesting, the vice president, when he was Senator Vance, would probably have voted against this.
Right.
But now that he has no intellectual honesty or ability to speak for himself, does what the White House tells him to do, which is to vote in favor of it. So you can imagine how I think about it. I would defend Congressman Massie and Senator Paul to the skies. They make profound arguments. What does the United States gain by funding Israel's genocide and wars? I'll tell you what we gain: the hatred of the rest of the world. That's about all we gain. What does the Constitution say about crafting structures that don't exist? Well, the Constitution creates a government of limited powers. These 2 make profound arguments that the Republicans don't want to hear, and that the White House and the Democrats are afraid of.
Now, there's a poll that Elon Musk put out. I don't know if you saw this. It came out about 8:30 this morning, saying, I'll just quote it real quick: removal of funding for enforcement of federal contempt of court orders is the actual crux of the spending bill. This is nominally aimed at removal of illegal immigrants, but obviously also enables many other abuses of power by the president, asking, should this be allowed? As of now, 69%, at least in Elon's poll, saying no, it should not be allowed. If you had any time, I'm just catching this based on Elon's post about it.
This is a very, very narrow issue, but one particularly offensive to the Trump administration, where the president is terrified he's going to be held in contempt. The Congress has purported to remove from federal judges the ability to hold people in contempt unless the opposing side posts a bond to guarantee the payment of whatever judgment is at issue. This will make it very difficult to hold the president in contempt. Not if the opposing side is Elon Musk, but if the opposing side is an average citizen, say somebody arrested by a masked man and whisked to El Salvador, and then they find out that person's an American citizen. I'm not making this up, it's a real case. that person probably would have a cause of action against the president, against the masked man, if he could ever find him and identify him. And if the masked man and the president refused to comply with a court order in order for the judge to hold that person in contempt, the person arrested by the masked man would have to post a bond. This is the butchering of freedom in this country by Republicans who are terrified of Trump, who's terrified of being held in contempt.
Yeah, and it's just there's so many things packed into this, and of course we'll be keeping our coverage, folks, because who knows what the House of Representatives is going to do next. But so much of this is now leaning into, and you wrote about this last week, the surveillance state that's come out of post 9/11, certainly. But it seems like people in the government, including Trump and team, are doubling down on this police state. You called it the coming police state. It almost seems like it's here to a degree already.
John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute, who's the country's foremost chronicler of police excesses, was on my show on Newsmax, and he said, "I loved your piece. I just disagree with the second word." Exactly what you said. It's not coming. It's already here. My argument was, and I'll accept that correction, particularly from John, whose work I admire so much. My argument was that it's about to get a lot worse. And the FBI, of course, if you bother to read their emails, has been warning about Iranian sleeper cells and how we have to keep monitoring you to keep you safe. That same old canard that somehow less liberty equals more safety. It doesn't. Less liberty just equals more power for the government. When the government wants to remind us about how it can keep us safe, it creates crime. It establishes a sting and then makes sure that CNN or some network is there to capture a guy who thinks he's about to explode a barrel of explosive in the New York City subway. It's really a barrel of talcum powder. Right. It was no crime that they've solved, but they'll take credit for it. The guy goes away for 20 years for conspiring to do something that it was impossible for him to do. What kind of a country does this? I'll go back to Clarence Darrow, who's in a closing argument before a jury where his client was charged with conspiracy to do something that never happened. Says, if two boys go to a candy store and steal a dime and get caught, they're not going to go to jail. A small fine will do. Now, this statement is made 150 years ago when a dime was the equivalent of $25 today. But if two boys conspire to steal a dime, plan and plot to do it, and then don't do it, they will go to jail. What kind of country does this to its own people? And the jurors are shaking their heads like, what is he talking about? Ours. Not guilty verdict. Anyway, that's the government's favorite, the garden of the prosecutor's favorite, as Justice Jackson called it, conspiracy, punishing people for what they think they're doing or what they might want to plan and plot. That's what's coming. Sorry for the long-winded answer about police state.
No, it's a great answer.
The definition of a police state is a state of affairs where the laws are written to preserve order and power and not liberty. America, from Madison up to Wilson, the Civil War was an exception, was liberty over power. A police state is power over liberty. That's where we are today.
Now, of course, the Supreme Court, just shifting gears here a little bit, made some rulings at the end of last week, in particular on the nationwide injunctions. It seemed like it spilled into X about the drama, the back and forth from Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Barrett, and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Are people making too much of this, or was it somewhat different than what we've seen in normal back and forth between justices?
I was surprised at what Justice Barrett wrote 20 years ago. The Chief Justice, not this one, but who was the Chief Justice at the time, wouldn't have permitted that to be printed. That's how out of line it is. You don't make personal attacks on your colleagues. These people have to live together and work together in a small environment. They meet in a windowless room with nobody else in the room. I thought the press made a big deal out of it, but I thought her, and I'm saying this as somebody that likes her, knows her, and admires her. I'm talking about Justice Barrett. I thought that her words were entirely inappropriate. But I guess there was some animosity articulated during the conference. This is the Chief Justice's fault. It's his job to prevent this stuff from happening.
Well, and I know they're going to have a lot on their plate as the boundaries are continued to be tested. And of course, since the last time we talked, a lot happened in American foreign policy and international affairs. I'll just try to, I guess, keep it simple. Do you think this ceasefire after the so-called 12-day war actually holds, is built on, or do you think we see this region and get inflamed once again?
The Israelis have never kept a ceasefire in the 80 years existence of their country. There's no reason to believe that they'll keep this one. However, it was they who begged for it because the damage that they suffered was extraordinary. You won't know it because they have suppressed reporters and media from covering it. The only way you know it is when Israelis themselves film it and post what they have filmed. So they desperately wanted the ceasefire. But nothing will stop their bloodlust for Iranian blood until they have some sort of a Shah-like figure in there who'll do whatever Netanyahu and the American president want. That's not going to happen. Not with this Iran.
Well, and the one area I consume a lot of media. So as I'm watching the buildup, the strike, thank God the pullback, I was looking who are the voices, and Tucker Carlson, I think, was a fantastic voice. And as I'm watching another follow-up, I have no desire to have you speak ill of your former employer, but I saw Tucker, and I believe it was Clayton Morris, speak very highly of you. And it's just, I think it's amazing that there are now other platforms and other voices that can speak out instead of just the propaganda pushed by Fox News and many others. I think it's at least showed our voices are being heard. Maybe not as much as we like, but at least we're part of in driving the conversation.
Well, I mean, our voices are being heard. The month of June, I will have reached over 14 million views. That's extraordinary for a simple little podcast like mine. That is bigger than any show on Fox Business, Newsmax, CNN, MSNBC, or CNBC. So our voices are being heard. I saw what they said. It was very flattering. They are both longtime friends of mine, and I chalk it up to friendship, but it was nice to hear.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. It does seem there's a line in, say, the corporate media world on the issue of war that if one crosses, they might tolerate it a little bit. But if you're like, hey, I really disagree with what y'all are doing, I don't know. I'm not trying to pry too much. It just seems like that is an unspoken rule that you better not question certain things in that world.
Well, you got to be able to look at your face every day in the mirror, come what may.
Yes,
so, that doesn't affect a lot of people. They just sort of fall in line. Some of us are a little bit more sensitive to a little thing called intellectual honesty, and you pay a price for it.
Well, a man who constantly alludes to St. Thomas More, I expect nothing less. And I always appreciate your time, sir. And if folks want to check out Judging Freedom, how can they do so? Who do you have?
I have the great Colonel Douglas McGregor on in an hour at 2:00 Eastern. Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski at 3:00, and the great Pepe Escobar at 4:30. The show is very hot these days. My anti-war people are vehemently anti-war. Let's put it that way.
Well, I always appreciate it, Judge. God bless, and hopefully talk to you next week.
Thank you, Joey. All the best. Enjoy your vacation, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Again, folks, the one, the only Judge Andrew Napolitano. Always appreciate his time. And it is a big change going on right now that you're starting to see. The conversation is not just dominated. And what I've long dominated by a select few that have a lot of power and money and say very powerful and wealthy backers. And it got a little better. I mean, let's just admit Fox News was the alternative. You remember the days where Obama was singling out Fox News? Why? It wasn't because Fox is great on every issue, but they were at least different than CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, the New York Times, the Washington Post. Go down the list. Fox at least offered an alternative in the same way they were really singling out in the early 90s Rush Limbaugh. Like, Rush developed a movement because he gave voice. Wish he was still here. I feel like the godfather of radio, like there's a huge vacuum there that just hasn't been filled by anybody, even other talented people. There's just something organic about the movement Rush built up. But when he started getting hot in the early 90s, they were singling him out. And you go, well, why? Why is one guy's voice or one network's voice such a problem? Well, it's because you don't need the majority. You just need an alternative. And as you see now, the ability to have folks that formerly worked at these companies, like the Judge, like Tucker, like so many others, or folks that just come up in the, say, alternative media world, I think that's what's freaking folks out, especially on the issue of foreign policy, but many others. Look at what RFK Jr. is up to. Great interview recently with Tucker Carlson there. I think it's giving an alternative. It is important that you get the views, that you get the listens. But as long as you're getting that alternative point of view out there, they actually have to defend their policies and their ideas. And I think it's as messy as it can be, as contentious as it can be. I think it's a very healthy exercise. And as much as Fox was the alternative to so many of the other legacy networks and newspapers and just corporate media in general, Fox was always the leader on the next war and pushing for the next military action. And so, again, it's refreshing to see this change. In studio with me, thank God I'm not alone today. He's going to be here for a good little bit of the show. Byron Sheehy returning. How you doing?
Doing all right. Excuse me. Doing all right, Joey.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Likewise, man. Good to see you.
And one thing that I wonder is going to happen, because Trump and Elon are going back at it.
Oh, yeah.
Is how much, because Trump wants to poo-poo all those podcasts that went on, all the new media stuff. Like, I think Trump said that of Tucker Carlson. Maybe you should get on a cable network so somebody actually listens to him. And I'm like, the boomer mind is undefeated in its own mind. That gum. Like, it is tough to even argue with that, where Trump himself knows it was also the alternatives that can drive a message. So I'm wondering, and Trump's the one who built this coalition. I think he knows how to generally hold it together, even as people feel chafe at certain policy decisions and whatnot. But if he takes it too far, could what Musk has built on X, Tucker's built, and you go down the list of all sorts of folks, could he be making enemies he probably shouldn't be making? In the sense of, especially the 2022 midterm elections. Now, we'll have to watch it play out, but I sense that this new media is what made the difference in 2024, along with events. Obviously, the moment where Trump is his ears shot, he's almost had his head blown off, he gets up, pumps the fist. It's an incredible, real moment, and I've been longing for real things in our politics. But you can't ignore the impact of Musk buying Twitter in 2022 and the spill-off effects from that ever since. And to have the richest man in the world upset at the most powerful man in the world, especially because the richest man in the world seems to feel betrayed that you went back on, say, certain promises, and not just you, Mr. Trump, not just you, President Trump, so many members of Congress. The debt and the deficits are such a big deal. Every person I've interviewed from the state of Alabama, whether it's Coach or Senator Brett or Gary Palmer or Barry Moore, they all talk about how the debt is such a big problem. And yet, here we are. We're going to add, at least in reality, I thought Senator Paul made a very good point. What's going to happen from this point to next year? The deficit's going to go up, the debt's going to go up by hundreds of billions of dollars.
They're not going to rein in spending after this?
Well, maybe down the road if you do these reforms and they stick in, but all these promises, this 10-year budget window, all this stuff, it's, I think, really a big charade. It's like, what's actually going to happen with the next Congress, especially when you have midterm elections that could shift the whole dynamic, and who controls a certain, especially the House of Representatives. So I find it frustrating that on that one particular issue, that it seems a lot of people across generations understand this is a big deal. They kick the can down the road because cutting, even though people say they care about it, cutting is actually unpopular with most people if you actually start doing it.
Well, paying's unpopular. And when you cut the budget, people are affected by it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just as simple as that. But if you want to be healthy in the long term, you got to take your medicine every once in a while. That's just kind of how I, look at it and feel about it.
But the news is the Senate has passed their version of the big, beautiful bill. A few changes. It took a tie-breaking vote from the Vice President, J.D. Vance. It will move on to the House. Will the House just vote up or down? The GOP leadership there in the House, Mike Johnson, the Speaker, and others are saying they've got the votes. They're going to get it done by the president's July 4th deadline. But I don't know. I mean, they could pull this off. That'll be kind of incredible. If the House doesn't vote, just clean up like what the Senate created, then they're going to have to go to conference, and that'll stretch out long after the 4th of July.
I think they'll probably get it done before the 4th. The House is a little more apt to want to get home. If it was over in the Senate side, they'd probably stay up there and hammer it out. I'd be willing to bet that they get it passed before the holiday.
Did you see John Fetterman, by the way, at his take on all this big, beautiful bill stuff?
No, I saw the headline where he just wanted to go to the beach. So I guess he was one of those people who cast their vote and then run over to Dulles or Reagan and get out of town.
Yeah, apparently he had some big family vacation planned. And, well, here, I'll just not even characterize it. I'll just play it for folks. This was Fetterman just the other day, essentially saying, here.
Oh my God! I just want to go home. I've already I've missed our entire trip to the beach. My family's going to be back before we that. So and again, I'm going to vote no. There's no drama. The votes are going to go. In fact, the only interesting votes are going to be on the margin, whether that's Collins or Johnson and those. But all the Democrats, we all know how that's going to go. And I don't think it's really helpful to put people here till when some ungodly hour. And again, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Poor guy.
But they did stay to some ungodly hour.
Oh, bless him.
I think Alabama's own Senator Brett was presiding in the wee hours of the morning. Man. And the way they do this sometimes is baffling to me. Though I think it's Trump who chose this omnibus vehicle.
See, to me, it's more Johnson. I think he's got to wear more of this.
I think it's both of them because Trump, there was the idea from the Senate side, let's break this up into a few different things. So it's a little cleaner of a process. Whereas I think your point is correct that we have such a slim majority in the House. We need to sort of have leverage over different competing interest groups. But Trump's the one who very clearly said, no, let's just put it all in one big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, but I say Johnson because they were the ones that were campaigning that this would never happen again. And here we are. So, we can sit here and wring our hands and discuss who represents whom and what the Republican Party stands for and everything. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, until we start remembering the promises that were broken and hold people accountable, they're just going to keep doing it.
And this is what I wrote about this week. That the sausage they sell, it all matters if it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
And people will forget a lot of stuff you stuffed into that sausage if, it just basically tastes good. And I think the clear metric that matters the most is rising real wages for everyday Americans. The Main Street economy. I mean, there are a lot of folks that look at their stock portfolio and go, oh, man, I was down, now I'm back up $100,000 or whatever. I think the market's a little bit above where it was before the big fall off with the tariff shock. But when it comes to everyday Americans, working Americans, small business owners, Main Street, if the real wages are rising and more native-born Americans are getting gainful employment,
mm-hmm.
I think you're going to see a lot of folks forget all these fights. As much as I'm frustrated by they're going to increase the deficit and debt. There's a lot of other things I'm sure snuck in there that could be abused. I think to myself, there is some method to this madness. They understand it's the old Carville line. It's the economy, stupid. And this is going to require not just, say, the tax cuts, like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. There is actually a big deduction, or it covers no tax on Social Security benefits. It covers about 88% of Social Security beneficiaries right now. No tax on that. So they did get that done to a degree. There was a bit of a compromise between Marsha Blackburn and Ted Cruz, amended the whole AI moratorium. And we can get into maybe the details of that. But the question is, what will the House do? But all this stuff in there, I think the practical politics says it doesn't matter. This is why you do the omnibus. You stuff whatever in there, and then you follow through with your tariff strategy, you follow through with your energy strategy. You pressure the head of the Federal Reserve to lower rates so it's easier to refinance debt and just generally bring rates down, easier to borrow money and actually invest. You could very well have a roaring economy by this time next year, by the 250th birthday. If you don't, then a lot of people are going to remember all these things they hated in this bill. They're going to remember all the bad feelings, whether it's between Musk and Trump or Massey and Trump or Rand Paul or any of these folks. They're going to remember that stuff. Or it could be the Tom Tillis type of Republicans. Like, wait, you're cutting back federal matching of Medicaid that was expanded under Obamacare? Like, how dare you? They're going to, Bronner here in this state's singing that tune, yelling at Britt and Tuberville about, hey, you're going to cut people off of Medicaid. It's health care that you're taking away from people.
This we always say elections have consequences, and this is a great example. So we elected a bunch of people to go up and represent certain principles or values. They get up there and they do to a large degree. The beauty of this big, beautiful bill is that there's something in there for everyone. So from like a political sense, the left and the right can attack it or embrace it however they so well choose. But over the last week or so, I saw that the Republicans' message was kind of coalescing around the prevent the largest tax hike in U.S. history. Now, we can get into the fact that we're probably the largest tax in history if it's the largest prohibition in history. Different argument, I guess. But that was at least something I thought where it showed some unity and pushing a clear message.
If you just did a straight up or down vote on continuing the tax cuts from 2017, I think you would have had all Republicans vote for it. You wouldn't need J.D. Vance as a tiebreaker. Even the folks making noises like Rand Paul said, yeah, I completely agree with that. I think even Susan Collins wouldn't have fought that.
But I think that gets to your point about the winning cures all mentality kind of later on. So long as the economy is healthy, people have jobs and are making more money, then yeah, it'll be okay. But if all those boxes aren't checked, then yeah, the Republicans are going to be screwed.
Well, we'll actually see if the House takes this up or if they get past the deadline. Trump earlier today was visiting Alligator, Alcatraz. It's going to be they're standing it up in Florida, essentially a holding facility that is surrounded by the Everglades, by the big old swamp. So they just have soft facilities. They don't really need hardened, secured facilities because if you escape the soft facilities, like where are you going to go?
Boa constrictor.
Yeah, man. Especially all these folks that bought him as a pet thinking, oh, it's a cute little snake and stuff. And now they're massive, taking over the Everglades, I think.
I don't think you'd have to worry about anybody trying to flee during the middle of the night.
Trump, though, is already starting to hedge and waver on the July 4th deadline of this big, beautiful bill.
I think they get it done. I'd be willing to bet.
And, of course, Trump hit Elon really nasty, saying he takes a lot of subsidies and he cares about the EV mandate, though Musk has said that for years. I don't really need that mandate. Yada, yada, yada. Elon said in response to this video, Trump saying, I'll look into deporting him or whatever, that I want to escalate so bad, but I won't for the time being. And my take on this is it's not full-on kayfabe, like they're talking to each other with sweet nothings, like, hey, I'm going to say this about you. I'm going to say, no, I think it's more each guy really playing into their own character. It's real, but it's very performative. You've seen this with Trump time and time again. I think Elon's a little more literal. Trump is always willing, if you're in his way, he will say whatever he needs to say to get you out of the way.
I love that Trump, I mean, he does the WWF, the heat factor, so long as you're spelling the name correctly, he does embrace that. And he can steamroll a lot of people. But to the question you kind of raised earlier, yeah, the old saying is you never want to get in a fight with someone who buys ink by the barrel. Well, you never want to get in a fight now with people who can buy social media platforms.
Yeah, especially that guy.
Right. So it'd be interesting to see if he does target some Republicans to primary, which ones he chooses to go after. I don't think it'll be, carte blanche, just go after everybody who voted yes. I think he'll be more systemic, or he'll pick his battles a little more wisely.
Well, and you notice Elon shut his mouth on the whole Israel, Iran, like he just was radio silent. So he's picking his battles already. Yeah. We'll keep watching. Got more to the program coming up at 2:00. I think Admiral Kent Davis will be on the show talking about a lawsuit he just filed against Governor Ivey. We'll get into that, but a few other things, especially given the Admiral's past experience with FEMA. Some insights into sort of the reforms and overhauls that need to be done by the Trump administration. Just kick things around with Admiral Kent Davis. Got to hit this break first, though. This part of the program brought to you by Josh and Leslie Ryder there at Dillon Rings. And at Dillon Rings, well, they're ready to help you as a full-service jewelry shop. An incredible inventory put together by Leslie. Really incredible, from everyday jewelry items to those top-end, very expensive items. They've got it all, the whole gamut there. Of course, they can also do custom design work made by Josh himself. The guy's a true artist. Or it could be you need some repair work done. Maybe there's a piece of jewelry you wear all the time that looks like you wear it all the time. Looks a little messed up. Well, they can make it shine and shimmer like it's brand new. Again, gentlemen, they can do watch repairs, battery replacement on the watch. They buy old jewelry. They do appraisals. They do it all. They're a full-service jewelry shop. So get by Dillon Rings today. That's 119 Brown Springs Road here in Montgomery. And be sure to tell Josh and Leslie that Joey, that fella on the radio, sent you.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Hi there, I'm Kim Williams with Alabama Home Mortgage. For many years, my team and I have worked diligently to provide our veterans with top-notch service, as it is our honor to serve those who have served us in the armed forces. Madeline and I are certified veteran lending specialists. Nationwide, there are over 22 million veterans that qualify to purchase a home through the VA loan program. Yet less than 2 million of them currently have a VA home loan. Many lenders do not keep up with the ever-changing guidelines and benefits of the VA loan program. They are intimidated by the program, resulting in many veterans not obtaining VA loans. This is unacceptable. The VA home loan program offers service members and veterans with 100% financing. You've already paid your down payment. If you are currently serving or have honorably discharged, we would love an opportunity to discuss how the VA program can serve you. Give Alabama Home Mortgage a call at 567-4223 or visit us online at myalabamahomemortgage.com to complete an application on your time. Thank you for your service. NMLS 1586-368, Equal Housing Lender.
Your SUV is packed tighter than a can of biscuits. Kids in the backseat, bags in the trunk, a flamingo float wedged between the snacks and the sunscreen. But wait, before you try to squeeze in a giant box of fireworks on top of your mother-in-law, just drive on out to Lake Martin Fireworks. They're already on the lake. Located at the crossroads of Real Island and Parker Creek at 4512 Little Steel Bridge Road, we're your one-stop boom shop for professional-grade fireworks. From kitty classics to those thunderous big boomers, they've got it all. If Uncle Sam's out front dancing, they're open and ready to hook you up with fireworks that'll turn your weekend into Remember That Time? Military, first responder, they've got discounts for you. Open all July 4th weekend. Lake Martin Fireworks, where summer starts with a spark and ends with stories you'll tell for years. 4512 Little Steel Bridge Road. Pre-tariff prices. Lake Martin Fireworks. Boom, baby. See you at the lake.
Hey, get in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
This is David Ernest from the Health and Wealth Show. We like to cut up and have fun, maybe poke a little fun at some politicians, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. One thing we do take seriously is your personal finances and your plans for retirement. You can tell by listening, we're a little different. Yeah, we like to have a good time on the radio, but we're dead serious about your financial future and helping you achieve your goals. At Ernest Financial, we're committed to giving you the attention you need. We don't treat you like a number. You're way more important to us. At Ernest Financial, it's about helping you today and preparing you for tomorrow. People call us who are on the verge of retirement, and they know they need a plan for the future. No matter where you are in life, Ernest Financial will help guide your every step towards retirement. Give us a call and let us show you what our individual customer attention can do for your future.
Concerned about your retirement? Call David Ernest toll-free at 833-596-7233. That's 833-596-SAFE.
Rich Thomas Weather brought to you by Clark Heating, Air and Plumbing.
Hey, this is Robbie Clark. Stay cool with a tune-up with Clark Heating, Air and Plumbing. Don't wait. Schedule today. Give us a call at 334-277-2125. Alabama certification number 09098.
Rich Thomas Weather.
Hi, everybody. No big surprises in today's forecast. I think the radar could be a little busier than yesterday. Today's high temperature 90 to 92, lots of humidity, a sun and cloud mix, and there will be a decent supply of those random storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Low tonight in the low to mid 70s. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Independence Day Friday, highs mostly in the lower 90s, a little hotter by the end of the week. And not quite as many storms on the radar each afternoon. You could still get a very heavy downpour, but not as many storms. They'll thin out just a bit. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
CB&S Bank has digital banking solutions to help you keep up. Check balances, pay bills, and much more. Learn more at cbsbank.com. Charges and fees may apply from your cellular service provider. Contact your service provider for information. Member FDIC.
Live, local talk. The River Region's most trusted voice for news and opinion. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Now, Elon Musk has threatened a third party. And my take on this, especially watching other third parties, is they don't work. I mean, they work to the extent of you get so successful as a third party, then, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Byron, that one of the major parties will co-opt your issue.
One of my favorite sayings in politics is you want to see Democrats and Republicans agree real quick, let a viable third party emerge. Yep. You will see them hold hands to destroy that third party.
Because so much of our system is built on this, the one side plays the foil to the other side. They want to get back to the conversation being Democrat versus Republican, not Trump versus media or like all these different ways you could actually look at the issues. They wanted to get back to team red versus team blue.
In an election, that's where you want things to go. You always want it to get down to binary. It's a lot easier to make your case to the average voter and get them excited for an election.
And then just the complexity of a viable third party, the complexity of trying to win an election at that point just becomes astronomical.
Impossible almost.
Yeah, like to really game it out in the same way you can with a head-to-head.
You'd have to focus so small, like state house, and then truly build up from there. There's just too much money. Like a third party is not going to win statewide. It's not.
Right. Well, and people are also stuck in their ways. And again, if a third party is resonating so much, what Democrats and Republicans would probably do is just take the major issues that's allowing them to resonate with people. Now, in this day and age, it could be like, yeah, they're now saying they're going to do that, but look at how much they've sucked and not done that. They're just, Johnny-come-latelys to all this.
Yeah, I mean,
you can make that argument.
A lot of what I imagine a lot of what the third party would say or want to do is a lot of broken or unfulfilled promises by either of the two parties.
Well, and what makes more sense is, like, I guess the last time, like, the Republican Party used to be a third party. It's like one party has to die, like the Whigs, go the way of the Whigs. But what you more often see in our history is one of the parties, Democrat or Republican, is taken over by an insurgent force. I think Trump is an example of this. The Republican Party today is not what it was when Trump first went down that golden escalator.
Right.
It would be like George Wallace taking over the Republican Party instead of running third party, or more likely taking over the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't quite fit. That's why he was a third party. But think of it like the progressive movement is this way. They actually took over both parties in a large way.
Well, I mean, honestly, as a conservative, it looks like to me that the socialists and communists have taken over the Democrat Party and drug it so far left that a lot of your grandfather's old Democrats, they don't identify
like
with
the
that.
unions.
Yeah.
You've lost the unions. You've lost the tech bros.
You've lost a lot of working class older people as well.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that, I guess it was Pew, they released how Trump actually won the election this, a couple years ago. And it was every demographic subgroup he made gains in, except for white people. I mean, Hispanics, African Americans, Asian Americans, it didn't matter sex, age, across the board. Gains there.
So if you're a Democrat right now, I'm sure there's a lot of brainstorming going on and how do we get back into like being competitive here and not just in a purple district where it's sort of a toss-up. Like, how do we actually get competitive nationally again? Drive the ideas, not always be playing defense to Trump. And they're going to come up with all sorts of little campaigns. Some will work, some won't. And I'm wondering, do you think this one will work or will it not work? That's the question here. This is some crazy-eyed brunette. And she's got an idea. Nationwide, sort of a strike. But let's just hear her out. This is some Democrat, I suppose, trying to be creative.
What if millions of us stopped working, stopped spending, and stopped producing all at the same time? There's a movement brewing. It's called the People's Sick Day. And what it is a 3-day economic blackout. That means no work, no shopping, no production, just pause. 3 days where we remind the system that without us, nothing moves. But here's the twist. We're not giving out the dates until 48 hours before because we don't want to give the corporations time to plan and stop us from having this happen. Because let's be honest, if they knew what we were planning, they'd shut it down before it even started. This isn't a protest. This is a strategic disruption to the machine that feeds off of our hard work and labor.
Yeah.
If you want to be a part of it, go to thepeoplessickday.com, join the Discord, and join the movement. This is how we stand up against what is happening in our country. We need to shut it down. We need to shut it down. So go to thepeoplessickday.com, sign up for the Discord, and you can get more information there. What if millions of us stopped working, stopped spending, and stopped producing all at the same time?
There's so many jokes in there.
Good luck with that, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Good luck trying to coordinate anybody to do anything, much less this generation trying to not do anything for a few days, much less, or a few hours.
Well, think about like folks here in Montgomery who have like no love for Trump. Like, you think you're going to listen to her ass? Like, I got work to do, woman.
Joey, nobody's going to pause their life and not go rack up a bill doing something over 24 hours for any sort of movement.
Like, we're all going to become monks? Or like, if you say ever you get millions of people on board with this, wouldn't it you just front load demand? You pull demand forward, like everybody would stock up?
Yeah.
So they could not do anything for 3 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would just be pulling that demand forward. You wouldn't be like hurting these 3 days too? Like, what is she... I guess they're trying.
They'll claim success. I did love how she wanted to attack the machine. Just don't tell the corporations what we're doing as we piggyback on their infrastructure and tell everybody what we're doing.
On their information networks.
Real organic there.
And how much you want to bet she's backed by some major corporation?
100%.
Yes.
I mean, already got the website. We're not going to stand for this. Sign up today.
Shut up on the Discord.
Come on.
Oh my God. Like, I don't know. You see stuff like that. And you're like, that's just
the
sad.
Republicans are going to have to falter. I don't think that.
I think that's right.
The Dems are on the mat. They are still, they're going to get a standing 10 count or 9 count, whatever. They're toast, man. They have to have the Republicans screw up in a royal fashion in order to be back in play in the midterms, much less president in a few years.
We got to hit another break. First, this part of the program brought to you by Pest Pro Services. And they're at Pest Pro, Ashley, and that fantastic team are ready to help you with any and all of your pest control needs. They've got this new monthly subscription model. That way you can have predictable cost when it comes to treating your home to prevent those pests. So, like, think of it like, you pay a water bill. You gotta have water on. Pay a power bill. Like, if you want just a standard bill that's predictable, easy to budget for, go with Pest Pro Services. It all starts. Level 1 is basic pest control protection. And you don't have to go higher than that. You can stop there. But you can add on top of that yearly inspection for termites, year-round protection against termites. Say you enjoy being outdoors in the summer and you don't want to be eaten up by mosquitoes, they can add that on as well. It's a very reasonable cost if you're looking to do that full protection. It includes things like fleas and ticks as well. Say you got pets, you don't want them bringing a bunch of nasty stuff in. They can help you across the board. And it all just starts by calling them up. I mean, you can always learn more at ppsriverregion.com or just look up Pest Pro Services on the Book of Faces. I say call them direct, 265-9990. That's 265-9990. When you want to know, call a pro. Pest Pro Services, and be sure to tell Ashley and that fantastic team that Joey that fell on the radio sent you.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
Hey, this is Lyle from Margaret's Exquisite Jewelry, and I do my radio advertising on Blue Water. I'll tell you what, I use most of the stations, and I've been using it for so long. It's hard to tell with the money you spend on advertising if it does any good. When they come in and say, I heard you on the radio, I know it's Blue Water, and I love Blue Water.
Radio reaches over 90% of everyone in the river region. Shouldn't your ads be out there where your customers are? Call us to find out more. Blue Water Broadcasting. Local folks helping local business.
Your home's first impression starts outside, and Gateway Exterior Cleaning, Lawn, and Landscaping is here to make it unforgettable. From spotless windows and power wash driveways to house washing and roof cleaning as well as landscaping, they do it all. Residential or commercial, they've got you covered. Call Gateway Exterior Cleaning, Lawn, and Landscaping or visit gatewayexteriorcleaning.com for a free estimate. They offer 0% financing, 3 to 24 months for flexible payments, and a 15% discount for first-time customers. Gateway Exterior Cleaning is your gateway to a cleaner, brighter home or business. Call today at 334-467-5480.
The River Region's News Talk Station. News Talk 93.1 WACV. News Talk 93.1.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Cameron. Hey, Cameron, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Enjoying your show.
Thank you, sir.
I had to go outside and look over to the horizon. All the truth and wisdom y'all spreading out, I figured there'd be a glow.
Okay.
I'm not trying to get on your good side. Brother, when you speak the truth, you know, it's the truth.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can I tell you what one of the thoughts that you made me think of while I was listening?
Of course.
Well, I was raised by wonderful people that had a simple view on life. I believe I'm recognizing a tactic that Trump is using. But I'm just little old me sitting here in Montgomery, so I wanted to see what you guys think of the idea.
Sure.
We all know what a comb is, and we know how to comb through records and, you know, comb through incidents. I think Trump laid this big, beautiful bill out, and everybody has to take his place. And Trump's just watching. Everybody has to take their place, and he will capitalize on that.
It's like sending up a flare and seeing who's naked.
Well, I don't think about things like that. That scares me.
Right.
But
I get your
yeah.
point. It's like do something big, bold, and see where everybody stands on it.
Yes, and then he will be able to move forward and build.
Yeah, and it makes sense. That's Trump's style. I always thought the tariff announcement was a big loyalty test, and then go to the reasonable position after you do the big, bold thing. And I think the big, beautiful bill, it is ugly. There's always going to be some ugliness to the sausage making, but that stuff only comes into play if the larger plan of making the economy hum for everyday working people falls flat. That's where you're going to have to see a big pivot. And of course, a year is forever in politics. Who knows what will be the issue around America's 250th birthday?
You want me to comment on your third party?
Yeah.
I agree with you guys. Very wise take on what might be historically, it might not happen. But with the addition of the internet and what I consider what's going on in America these last few years is a maturing. I mean, people got scared to death because Kamala almost got in. By some calculation.
Sure.
I'll tell you, it made me wonder where my national brothers and sisters, what they were thinking, but we pulled through, and now they made the mistake of lifting the curtain. We saw what was going on, and we voted. So right now with the internet, you never know who will come up there and win people's hearts and minds. But it's still possible. I just think it'll be rare.
Yeah. Well,
I agree with you, but I like to be hopeful.
Well, I appreciate it, Cameron. I like the hope. I like the agreement, and always love you listening. Thanks, sir. 272-9228. If you want to get into the conversation like that, this part of the program brought to you by James Cole and Cole Plumbing. They're Cole Plumbing. They're ready to help you with any and all of your plumbing needs. Could be an everyday issue, say a clogged drain, and you tried some, easy methods didn't work. Maybe you need that drain snaked. Maybe your lady's got her hair falling out, or maybe you have long locks like me and your hair is getting all over the place. Or it could be you flush the toilet and something comes up in the shower drain. That might be an even bigger issue. Maybe you have a massive leak. Could be a gas line leak, which is a big deal. You need to get solved like right now. If you smell that stuff, get it solved right now. Or it could be a major water leak. Well, Cole Plumbing has the technology where they can do it fix the problem with minimal discomfort to you in your home. They're not going to have to tear out a bunch of drywall, dig up a huge hole in your yard. They can do it with precision and expertise. And of course, they can also upgrade, say to a tankless water heater system, maybe a taller toilet, new accessories for the shower and the bathroom, or new garbage disposal in the kitchen. They can help you with all of that. So check them out today. You can always make an appointment online at coleplumbing.com or call them direct, 279-8919. That's 279-8919. And just remember, folks, when you have trouble with your bowl,
call on Cole.
That's right. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusada, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. The Senate has passed President Trump's big bill of tax breaks and spending cuts after a turbulent overnight session. Vice President J.D. Vance broke a 50-50 tie to push it over the top. The big, beautiful bill next heads back to the House. The president wants the package at his desk by week's end. A surprise development, Brian Koberger has agreed to plead guilty to murdering 4 University of Idaho students as part of a deal with prosecutors to avoid the death penalty. The 30-year-old Koberger is accused in the stabbing deaths of the 4. It happened at a rental home near campus in Moscow, Idaho in November of 2022. Koberger arrested in Pennsylvania weeks after the killings. On Wall Street, stocks are higher, the Dow up 400 points. This is SRN News.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. You work hard, you build wisely, your home has become one of your greatest assets. If you're staying put this summer, this might be the perfect time to put that equity to work, whether it's funding a second home, helping your kids get their start, or simply creating more margin in your financial life. Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans are the only ones I trust to guide you through it. They've done loans for my family. They tailor every loan to fit your goals. Fellowship is a direct lender and operates with your best interest in mind. If you're looking to access your equity through a refi or exploring a HELOC for some cash this summer for a second property, or maybe tackle those updates you've been putting off, start with people you trust, people I trust. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 8193.
Rich Thomas Weather is brought to you by McPhillips Schimbaum.
My name is Aaron Luck, a partner with the law firm of McPhillips Schimbaum. If you or someone in your family has been seriously injured by the negligence of someone else, call me directly.
262-1911. Rich Thomas Weather.
Hi, everybody. No big surprises in today's forecast. I think the radar could be a little busier than yesterday. Today's high temperature 90 to 92, lots of humidity, a sun and cloud mix, and there will be a decent supply of those random storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Low tonight in the low to mid 70s. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Independence Day Friday, highs mostly in the lower 90s, a little hotter by the end of the week. And not quite as many storms on the radar each afternoon. You could still get a very heavy downpour, but not as many storms. They'll thin out just a bit. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Budget Floors and More is your low price leader for everything you need for flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies. For the best prices on luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, flooring installation supplies, and more, shop Budget Floors and More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey to Publix.
From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, these are today's top stories. Montgomery police have made an arrest in a weekend gun shop burglary. 21-year-old Ethan Turner is accused of driving a vehicle through the front window of Pike Tactical on Chantilly Parkway just after midnight Saturday. Turner attempted a similar crash and grab burglary Sunday at Walter Craig Sportsman's headquarters and was apprehended after a short chase. A Millbrook man was arrested after a 3-hour standoff with police Monday afternoon. Officers were called for a domestic violence incident in the 4400 block of Highway 14, where 26-year-old Terry McKeithen refused to exit the residence. Police officers eventually gained entry, and the suspect was immediately taken into custody without further incident. The city of Wetumpka will present a pre-Independence Day concert and celebration on Thursday. The event will feature live music, children's activities, and a fireworks show for the grand finale. This free, family-friendly celebration begins at 6 p.m. on Court Street in downtown Wetumpka. From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, I'm Sky Mosley.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
There's nothing that will heat up the summer more than a hot deal from Pizza Perfect. The perfect family fill-up in July is a free order of boneless wings with the purchase of any large pizza. Pizza Perfect is known for their all-you-can-eat buffet that includes pizza as well as spaghetti, breadsticks, salad, dessert, and drink for only $13. The buffet is available Monday through Saturday for lunch and for dinner on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. Get a free order of boneless wings with the purchase of any large pizza from Pizza Perfect in Eastbrook.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. quick follow-up here on stuff that came out yesterday here locally. There were, I think, 4 entities that sued the state of Alabama, sued the attorney general and the state in the hemp industry because of this new ban on hemp-derived products, or really takeover. Some of it has a ban, in particular on smokable or vapable hemp products. These 4 groups sued in the Montgomery County Circuit Court. Judge James Anderson declines to block new hemp law. So they were looking for injunctive relief or something of that nature, saying we got all this money invested. The guidance from the authorities on enforcement has not been clear. Can you hold off, stay this law for a second? And Judge Anderson said, nope. I'm not going to touch this. They tried to make a 14th Amendment and like interstate commerce argument. And the quote from Anderson is, the court finds as a matter of law that House Bill 445 does not impede or prohibit interstate shipping of hemp products. It was a motion for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction filed by the hemp companies last week. It was 4 hemp companies that sued Governor Ivey, Steve Marshall on Friday, claiming in part of the new law passed in the 2025 regular session, regulating and restricting certain hemp products, is unconstitutional. And I don't know what next steps will be, but they did not get the relief, the immediate relief they're looking for, because a lot of the ban on smokable and vapable hemp products goes into effect today.
I don't know who owns the facility, but there's some sort of manufacturing in my hometown of Geneva, and it's a big, hemp factory. So I'll be able to ask around some of the townies and see if they're still operational. But if they're not operational, I think that would potentially satisfy the interstate commerce clause part, because I'm sure they have customers that are across state lines.
And, as we talk about the big, beautiful bill that passed, we're mostly thinking of it from a very fiscal, hawkish point of view. But David Bronner, at his, what does he put out? What is it called? I'm trying to think. The Advisor. Yes, that's the July edition of The Advisor, the newsletter, whatever thing it is. He put out, quoting Bronner, "Please do not kid yourself. The one big beautiful bill as passed by the U.S. House and under consideration by the U.S. Senate will dramatically gut Alabamians and destroy their lives." He goes on to say the House bill will do some positive things like expand funding for Marshall Space Center and improve U.S. defense spending, but it also harms 20%, 1 million Alabamians of those who live near or below the poverty line. The bill slashes Medicaid and all caps health insurance, with 170,000 Alabamians losing health care, along with slashing the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP food program, 100% federally funded, affecting nearly 800,000 children, elderly, and disabled citizens. U.S. Senators Tuberville and Britt, please do not allow this to happen in Alabama. And both Britt and Tuberville just vote for the bill.
I mean, David's a Democrat, is he not?
Yeah.
I mean, are we surprised by this?
No. I mean, but so you're getting it from both sides.
You have your own newsletter. You can say what you want.
Sure.
Is the advisor. He's the advisor.
Yeah.
He gets to say what he wants.
Yeah. It's his thing. His rag.
You can line the birdcage with it if you want. Or
we got our rags. We got all. I mean, we can do. Yeah.
Potato, all kinds.
Just the hysterics anytime one of these things comes up from any point of view. It's just, part of me is like, it's a little much. Let the practical aspects of all this play out.
Man, we can't let practicality win out. We got to sell that sizzle, baby.
See, I've been on that kick lately of being practical, and everybody accuses me of abandoning my ideals. And I'm like, well, I have my ideals. It's just, they're always violated and nobody used to them. So I'm kind of just fine. I could squawk and be like, that's against natural law. That's against all sorts of good principled reasons. And yet people keep on doing what they're going to do. So why don't we look at the practical analysis of this?
I think there's some things that you have to dig your heels on and just be an ideologue. I mean, it's who you are.
On certain things.
Absolutely. On certain things, right?
Yes.
On some things, you can give ground. Financial, for me, and I think I've said this to you either publicly or privately, the reason I consider myself a Republican is because of financial conservatism. And
not social conservatism.
No, it's finance. It's not spending other people's money.
Right.
It's not placing a heavy tax burden on businesses and individuals.
Not creating systems of dependency.
Yes.
Yes.
And we look at, how could this official go up there and vote to expand, government? They're part of the beast. When's the last time you saw the government actually rein in spending, whether it be the state, the feds, whomever? The beast does not kill itself.
Well, and y'all saw how excited it was for DOGE until they muzzled it, leashed it in the backyard. But my politics is essentially Javier Milei in Argentina. Like cut, and people will scream and all of the things. But look at the growth now in Argentina. It works. It really does work.
I've often wondered what would happen after the bailout if they would have just let everything cleanse itself naturally, had a sharp 2.5-year depression and got out of it and been a healthier system on the other end. And I guarantee you it would have stopped a lot of the bad policy decisions and just sort of the business as usual mindset. When they put that provision in there that said Bernanke, Paulson, and none of the boys would go to prison over this, that had never been done before.
It's crazy. Well, and that is the moment where you start to see identity politics really get funded by the corporations in a big way.
I mean, that
where you can look at folks, I like to think that actually race relations with everyday people, just using race as an example, you could do the war on women, men and women, yada, yada, yada. You pick whatever category, sexuality, But say just sticking on race, I would like to think we're in a much better place than we were, say, in the 60s. Obviously. I choose that because it's obvious, I think, to everyone. But if you go look at just like, I think it's like engrams, it's on Google. You can look up certain usage of certain words. And some people have done studies breaking down the amount of times, say, the Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal have used certain words. And you can see the word race and racism go like through the chart, off the chart in like the last 10 years, 15 years, right after the bailouts. And the Tea Party's working up, Bernie's getting populist sentiment on the left. And all of a sudden you see all of the major corporate media start really pushing racism to where everything's about that and seeing everything through that lens. And it's like, is it because things got like really, we backslid? I don't think so.
No, it was identity politics.
I think it's being pushed to divide people who otherwise would come together to say, whether it's on the right or the left, to say, we got screwed by the fat cats on Wall Street.
Well, that's kind of where a lot of the origin of the Tea Party originated from, right? I mean, it was people pissed off about the bailout of Wall Street and Main Street getting screwed over in the process. And shortly thereafter, the Republican Party, to your point earlier, kind of co-opted the Tea Party and brought them under the tent.
Well, and I'm trying to think of what the song says. Fat cats on Wall Street, they got a bailout. Why does somebody else have to wait? $700 billion, but in my old neighborhood, ain't nothing changed but the date. And I think that actually cuts across a lot of different identities around this country. And it's the thing Trump played into. Again, the problem, we'll have to see it play out. Does he actually deliver, I think, on that central promise?
I think
that central populist promise.
He's doing his damnedest to try.
Let's go to line one. You're on there. Who's this?
Hey, Soldier Boy.
Hey, man.
I'm bringing it home or local now.
Sure.
I see that the individual, the police department caught the guy that broke into a tactical place and took weapons in Chantilly over there. And then the next day, what does he do? After ramming his car into that building, he runs it into Roger Craig's building and takes some more crap.
Yeah.
I mean, he has good auto insurance. Must be one tough car.
Was it the same guy who hit both places?
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't a Prius, I assume.
No.
He was probably driving a Volvo.
Hey, those things are kind of tough.
Tough enough to crash through multiple buildings in a single week.
And that's why it's good for 5 crashes per week, says the salesman. I'm like, okay, but what's the intelligence of this guy? I mean, you don't even cool down. You try to commit the same crime in basically the same kind of building the next following day within 24 hours.
That's desperation. That can't have anything to do with intelligence. That's got to be straight desperation.
Or drugs.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
Tell it to a junkie.
Yeah, I got to get my meth, and I don't want to soak cork just yet, so I'll steal firearms.
But you're probably right. It is a sign of desperation because intelligence just went out the front door and locked itself out on purpose, not by accident. And it's like, hey, what else can I do stupid today?
Mm-hmm.
But they said the person, to get caught within 24 hours, somebody must have did some talking.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it was kind of obvious, too. That's a very over-the-top way of breaking into a place. I'm sure there was identifiers galore.
Well, if you ever drive by that on the bypass, okay, you'll notice one thing. There's always a vehicle back there, an unmarked car, off-duty police officer that's usually 24/7. They have somebody out there because of all the weapons they have in there.
And I was ready to ask the chief of police, and then he was a no-show yesterday. I don't even.
Yeah, I saw that. What did he give you an explanation?
I didn't. I haven't gotten one yet. Honestly, I'm already in vacation mode. I thought we're going to have a good conversation on a Monday. I can get out of town and have them on
Let me
another
get this
time.
straight here. He didn't give you. Did you ask for an explanation?
No, I just kind of moved on. Seriously, I'm in vacation mode.
Right,
and I'm a little
right.
annoyed. Obviously, I promoted
Well,
it.
absolutely. You're a taxpayer. You're not just
Well, and also,
a taco.
selfishly, I have to cover for Sky Mosley. By the way, Martha, his wife's doing great, I heard, after the knee surgery, which is awesome. But I have to sit here and do one show before my show, so I booked guests, so it wouldn't be quite as like me just blathering, which is always a prospective problem. But and they no-show. And also the superintendent, last second no-show. I was told they called some special meeting or something.
At the beach.
At the beach.
Man, drive through Montgomery. Half the town's already
I know.
Just he couldn't. The police chief couldn't make it to Joey's, but if you look on his Facebook, he's having a great time wearing his plastic badge at the beach.
Yeah. Well, and me complaining about it, I can just hear Jack Campbell in my mind. Get off the cross. We need the wood. I'm like, thanks.
Here's my issue. I'm glad that you asked for an explanation. I think you're entitled. I think we're entitled because we wasted our time waiting for this guy, and we believed your word, not his word, because his word evidently shows by not showing up doesn't mean jack to me.
Well, honestly, I look forward to talking to the guy. I thought it was right to hire a local guy. And, some of the issues he can speak to in terms of recruitment and whatnot, though that does fall on the mayor.
He can't talk to you about recruiting, what's going on and in what direction he wants to go and everything if you don't come.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't talk to a piece of air and talk.
Well,
Let me ask you a question.
I could pull the whole Clint Eastwood at the RNC with the empty chair or whatever, but.
Yep. Oh, that would have been great. Hey, so let me ask you a question. He didn't call and say, hey, by the way, I can't make it because such and such came up.
No, I think people just straight up forgot, or maybe they think it's this upcoming Monday and I'll get a surprise visit. And it's like, am I under arrest, sir?
Well, I think he not only owes it to you, but he owes it to the taxpayers. If he says he's going to come, I take him for his word. Why? If I can't, like my dad used to say, you can't take a man for his word. You can't take him for anything. If you're going to tell me you're going to be there, my dad used to tell me the same thing. If you're not going to be there, just call and say, hey, something came up and we're going to have to do a reschedule.
Yeah.
Okay? Simple as that. It don't take but 2 seconds. And I can accept that at least once or twice, But for you not to tell us, the people, the taxpayers that pay for his every 2-week paycheck, I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed. It kind of shows me the direction of the city of Montgomery's policies.
Well, we'll see if they try to pick up the pieces. Appreciate the call, man.
Later.
Joey, I'm not trying to throw salt on the wound here, but I have to agree with the caller. It's kind of, if they wanted to, they would mindset. If he really wanted to be here, he would have been.
Yeah, it was set up. It wasn't set up directly with me. It was through somebody, and it's I suspect it's possible
somebody dropped
put
the ball.
down the wrong date or something.
Okay,
stuff happens, and I'm very forgiving.
Sorry for being so.
Obviously,
so hard.
yesterday I was annoyed, but I can't just let my annoyance like dictate everything. If I let just my emotions and my annoyance dictate all the stuff I say, then I don't think I could have a show.
We can't always help what happens to us, but we can help how we respond to it.
A very stoical attitude there. Did you get that from Marcus Aurelius? Let's go to line 3. You're on there. Who's this?
Charles the First. Hey, Byron. Hey, Joy.
Hey, Charles, how are you?
I'm pretty good. You might want to take notes on what I'm going to say here. I wanted to get in on the ABC and the suing and all that stuff, guys.
Mm-hmm.
In 2013, during the governor's administration then, and the guy that started Aaliyah and all that, they put ABC enforcement under the umbrella of Aaliyah.
Right.
So there are no ABC enforcement officers. Okay.
Okay.
Now that wasn't legal. You could not do that. Absolutely. I'm not a lawyer, but you can't. You could not take the ABC because to change the ABC in that way, you had to do it by a vote of the citizenry because it was a part of the Alabama Constitution that tells you have to. Have you got me?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
sure.
Now, in HB 445, it tells that the ABC is to do everything that has to do with this. Now, keep this in mind. The Constitution also, the only enforcement that ABC can do, which I've already told you before, is alcohol, but they're not allowed to tell other enforcement than their own as a board what to do. Are you following?
Yep.
That means that Aaliyah really couldn't have been forced to go in there, and that anyone going into these places had to do so strictly under the legislative mandate of the ABC. First paragraph, HB 445. Got me?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't miss it. It couldn't be clearer. It doesn't say Aaliyah, and the Constitution does not let the ABC do that. You got me?
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, I don't know. I guess it would have to be something done about the fact that it was not correct, shouldn't have been done. The legislature couldn't even do it, which was moving the enforcement to Aaliyah. Absolutely could not.
Are you sure?
Not.
Because it sounds like they did it. Are you sure they actually did it, or did they just put them under, say, because there was a big consolidation, right? Every law enforcement statewide was put under.
And everything.
So they might have just done an organizational consolidation while ABC still exists. It's a different spot under the org chart.
The ABC may exist, but ABC in all its forms is only supposed to be alcohol is supposed to be completely under and there are no officers because they told them they could either become state troopers or they could take an early retirement, Joey.
Okay.
And so that is not them being in existence anymore. And it was wrongfully taken. Have you got me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
If you really research it. And the thing, I think that when anything happens to these stores, that's when they should say the state law 445 authorizes it to be done this way. And these things are not being done this way, and there should still be an ABC. And apparently the legislature thinks they're still in enforcement, or they would not have written the law as they have. So just need to make all that, where anybody would at least look into what I'm saying.
Well, you're kind of getting into the weeds there, so to speak, but I appreciate it as always, Charles. Always do.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot, y'all.
It seems like the simple fix, as far as the way he laid out, would just be them on the other side of the session next year passing something that brings the enforcement agency back into play under the ABC.
Well, I just got a sense a lot of these folks in the hemp so-called industry is
connected.
Yeah, they tried this initial temporary injunction. Judge Anderson again shot that down. I suspect there might be next steps as well, though. These folks have invested a lot of money.
Yeah, they probably have some coin.
Go to line 1. You're on there. Who's this? Anybody there? Anybody at all? Did somebody's butt call me or? All right.
What else you got?
We have a mute audience member calling in. This part of the program brought to you by Bo Goodson of the Goodson Group. And there at the Goodson Group, Bo and his team are ready to help you whether you're looking to buy or sell here in the Montgomery and surrounding areas. Could be you're looking to buy or sell, but also they can help you with management. So you want to convert that property. Maybe you're moving to a different city. You don't want to sell the place that you got here in Montgomery or in the River region. Why not convert that to a rental? And why not have the Goodson Group manage that rental for you for a reasonable fee? Really great solution and service they offer there. And of course, the crown jewel is the Bo Goodson Real Estate School, one of the most highly acclaimed here in the great state of Alabama. And a lot of that is due to Bo's 50 years of experience. He's seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's a very interactive course. He doesn't let you just sit there like a bum on a log. He actually makes you get engaged in the class. And that way you can hit the ground running, whether you're looking to be a more just knowledgeable private player or you're looking to become a licensed real estate agent. Check out the Bo Goodson Real Estate School. You can always learn more at thegoodsongroup.com. That's thegoodsongroup.com, or give them a call at 551-0225. That's 551-0225. Bo Goodson and the Goodson Group, great sponsor here of the program. We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Welcome to Eclectic Coins, Montgomery's largest coin dealer, specializing in buying and selling investment-grade gold and silver coins. And they have a large selection of rare coins and coins from around the world. Visit them at 543 Northeastern Boulevard or on the web at eclecticcoins.com. Eclectic Coins, where collectors who know go.
The Tears family has been your local Roto-Rooter service since 1964. Drain cleaning, plumbing repair, and those troublesome septic tanks, no problem. Technology has changed a bit in the last 54 years. Video inspections of lines to locate problems is available, as well as scheduling your appointment online. River Region residents have trusted Roto-Rooter for over half a century. You can too. Call today at 272-7130 or visit online at rotorooteralabama.com.
Call Roto-Rooter, that's the name, and away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Do you have real estate problems? Whether you're facing foreclosure, inherited a property, or have costly repairs, we understand. At Rapid Fire Home Buyers, we're here to help. Any condition, any situation, we'll give you an honest cash offer for your home so you can move forward. Because when real estate problems cause you uncertainty, you deserve a solution you can trust. Any condition, any situation, we're here to help. Give Rapid Fire Home Buyers a call today at 334-675-1000. That's 334-675-1000.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Hey, from the Capital Oyster Bar, we want to tell you thank you for your support. We're shut down this week, taking a week off and seeing some of God's great country here. So God bless America and have a safe, happy 4th. See you next week.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
The Rich Thomas Weather Network, brought to you by Montgomery Paint and Body. From little fender benders to total body repair, MPB will fix it good as new, maybe better. For 4 decades, the Turner family has been getting you back on the road. Call 279-7325.
Rich Thomas Weather.
Hi, everybody. No big surprises in today's forecast. I think the radar could be a little busier than yesterday. Today's high temperature 90 to 92, lots of humidity, a sun and cloud mix, and there will be a decent supply of those random storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Low tonight in the low to mid 70s. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Independence Day Friday, highs mostly in the lower 90s, a little hotter by the end of the week. And not quite as many storms on the radar each afternoon. You could still get a very heavy downpour, but not as many storms. They'll thin out just a bit. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Hey, this is Peaches and Clean, Powerful Carpet Cleaning. Do you have area rugs and oriental rugs that you have been delaying cleaning? Give us a call at Peaches and Clean. We offer free pickup and delivery in the Montgomery Tri-County area, or check us out at peachesandclean.com.
Live local talk. The River Region's only 24-hour News Talk FM station. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Billy. Hey, Billy, how you doing?
Joey, hope y'all doing well today.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Great. You know, I wouldn't worry too much, man, about the issue with the chief not showing up. I mean, to be quite honest, over the past 10, 12 years, that office has been diminished greatly. You know, the scandals and the hiring ethics that the city has, but I wouldn't worry. And the mayor, when Tommy Tuberville becomes governor and he has to move into Montgomery, and when he realizes what a cesspool and a dump that place has turned into, I guarantee you, he's going to have them all dancing to a different jig very soon. So just hold tight, brother, because the cavalry is on its way.
Looks like Coach is already governor, honestly. Not officially, but you know what I mean. Well, I appreciate it, Billy. 2729228 if you want to get in on the conversation, just like Billy did. This entire hour brought to you by Alabama Home Mortgage, and they're at Alabama Home Mortgage, Kim Williams and Madeline Cannon. Well, they're ready to help you with buying a home, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. You're looking for a great, trusted local company that can walk you through that home buying process. That is Alabama Home Mortgage. It all starts with pre-approval, but they can walk with you every step of the way. Appraisals, inspections, all the way to closing day. They have your back. And of course, they can also help you with a great refinance deal. Maybe you want to get credit card debt off your back. Maybe you want to bring down monthly overhead costs. But honestly, it's your money you've built up in your home, built up that equity. You can use it for what you wish. And no matter your goals, they can help guide you to them. They're at Alabama Home Mortgage. And of course, they specialize in helping veterans, whether on a home purchase or on a refinance deal. They know the latest with the VA home loan programs, and they can help you veterans out. These are benefits you earn through your service. Don't leave money on the table. They're the best deal going in the housing market. So check out Alabama Home Mortgage today. You can always call them direct at 567-4223. That's 567-4223. Or you can apply online at myalabamahomemortgage.com. There is a difference in mortgage companies. Let Kim and Madeline prove that to you today. NMLS number 1586368. Equal housing lender. Now, Tucker Carlson recently had on Bobby Kennedy. And there was, of course, RFK Jr. has long been a controversial figure because of the claims linking vaccines and autism. We'll get a load of this clip. Recent interview, again, by Tucker Carlson with Bobby Kennedy. Take it away.
What you would do if you wanted to find the answer, which is to compare outcomes in a fully vaccinated group to health outcomes in an unvaccinated group. And the CDC did that study in 1999. They brought in a team of scientists under a Belgian researcher named Thomas Verstraeten, and they looked at the data. They looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life, and compare those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and then they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, we know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. And they stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks. And all of those studies were the subject of that kind of trickery.
Wow. And the more this guy digs in, now running these agencies, gotta wonder what else are certain powerful interests hiding the ball of the effect of their products, the effect on the population of what has been a very generous gravy train. That's astounding. An 1,135% increase? Well, that is shocking. Well, we got to hide the ball. It would be nice if we could trust our institutions. Government in general, our public health institutions, medical institutions across the board, healthcare across the board. But given the track record, and given in particular the health of Americans right now, from the young to the old, why would we trust them? I don't have it all in front of me, but I've heard just Bobby Kennedy bring up instance after instance where the folks are essentially being able to grade their own homework and hold off anybody else from grading their own homework. A lot of fraudulent studies. God love Bobby Kennedy for actually getting in there and knocking heads together. I mean, thank God he and President Trump haven't had a falling out like Elon and Trump continue to have. But here on the, say, human interest side of this dynamic, here's Bobby Kennedy, again, talking with Tucker Carlson. This came out, I guess, yesterday, about what he's learned in regards to President Trump and his, say, personality. Who is the man that you call Donald Trump?
It surprised me about the president because I, bought into this fact that he was this one-dimensional character, that he was kind of a bombastic narcissist and all this. And, and part of it is hearing it all the time on TV, but also, the way that he conducts himself sometimes validates those. If you have that narrative, you can find things in what he does that validate that narrative. But what I've been surprised in getting to know him is what a kind of deep, multidimensional, and thoughtful character he is, and how well. I also thought, he doesn't read, and he's not interested in anything. He's immensely curious, inquisitive, and immensely knowledgeable. He's encyclopedic in certain areas that you wouldn't expect, like music. And, he gets very emotional about music. And,
yes.
And he knows the whole story behind every song.
Pavarotti and James Brown.
Yeah. He cries when he hears Pavarotti. He said to me one night when we were at Mar-a-Lago with the Amaryllis, he said, Amaryllis, you understand this because she loves music too. And he said, but most of the people here, they don't understand it. They don't get it. And in terms of sports, he is, he's an encyclopedia. He knows everything. And then, on Wall Street, he knows how everybody made their money and the stories. And he's, an incredible raconteur about telling all these stories. And then, and also the most surprising thing is because I had him pegged as a narcissist, but narcissists are incapable of empathy. And he's one of the most empathetic people that I've met. You notice whenever he talks about the Ukraine war,
yes,
he always talks about the casualties on both sides. Every time he talks about it.
I have noticed that.
And he does that in every theater. He talks about how human beings are affected by it, whether it's vaccines or Medicaid or Medicare. He's always thinking about how this impacts the little guy. And, the Democrats have him pegged as a guy who's sort of sitting, in the cabinet meeting talking about how can we make billionaires richer. He's the opposite of that. He's a genuine populist. And, like all of us, we're all flawed characters in one way or another. But I think he's really the uniquely right person for this country right now. Because we were in a death spiral, and not only just, morale, but also just, the deficits are, who could ever, would you believe we'd ever have a president in our lifetime who would actually be addressing, the costs of government in a dramatic way?
No.
And the trade deficits, how could you ever cure that? They're just too entrenched, and so many people, making money and on them, but meanwhile, us all going to hell in a handbasket. And, so I think he's doing stuff at great political cost to him that is going to benefit this country 10 years from now and 20 years from now. And, I'm really proud to be part of it.
Refreshing to hear in the midst of all the contentiousness over war, over the big, beautiful bill, to hear a little bit of the human side, especially from a guy who was rightfully skeptical and a bit of an adversary for years and years and years. And sometimes people are partisan warriors for a long time and they realize, no, what I care about is this particular issue, and I'm going to team up with this person I never thought I would team up with because they're giving me the opportunity to see that issue through and solve the problem. It is unfortunate that the MAGA coalition is fraying in certain ways. But at the end of the day, I think, though it's not completely fake, it's not completely kayfabe, there is a performative aspect to all this. So a reporter shouted a question at President Trump this morning because Elon Musk continues his opposition to the big, beautiful bill. And the reporter asks, are you going to deport Elon Musk? It's a heck of a question. Let's listen into the president's reaction to that.
A lot of hostages back, but we're going to talk about that. I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put DOGE on Elon. You know what DOGE is? DOGE is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter. I'm going to let Peter test it out.
Yeah, and I find that Trump being Trump. The idea that Musk is making all this stink just over the EV mandate is, especially from past statements of Musk and how he's been operating, at least on the periphery of politics for the longest time. I just don't see that as the main reason for this, say, tiff between the richest man in the world and the most powerful man in the world. We like to believe he's the most powerful man in the world. He certainly tries to act like it. So isn't it amazing how contained even the most powerful man in the world can be by our systems? And another part of the, say, coalition fraying, and this is, I think, voiced in a very effective way by Senator Rand Paul. This was on the floor yesterday as the vote-a-rama was going on to amend this big mega bill. Of course, that has now passed the Senate. We'll see if the House actually takes it up. But here's Senator Paul laying out his concerns. He was one of the 3 Republicans to vote no. The others were Collins and Tillis for, say, big government reasons. But Rand Paul being Rand Paul, well, he's not changing his tune. The times change, but he doesn't. Here's his concern with what's going on.
Which brings us back to maybe we have to judge the effects of the big, not so beautiful bill by looking at what happens to the debt next year. Supporters of the bill admit it adds $270 billion to the debt next year. That's the only thing we know for certain. We don't know what happens in year 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, but we know next year this bill will grow the deficit by $270 billion. In addition, the bill increases the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. What does that mean? That is an admission that they know they aren't controlling the deficit. They know that the ensuing years will add trillions more. So we're adding $2 trillion this year, but they're anticipating, the authors of the bill anticipating adding more than $2 trillion next year. That doesn't sound at all conservative to me, and that's why I'm a no.
So we're kicking the can down the road once again. I'm not that surprised. This is our national addiction. As much as so many folks give voice to it and realize, oh yeah, that is our addiction. That's kind of how addictions work, right? You're really hooked on something. You're going to say many times, if you ever do quit it without hitting actual rock bottom, some catastrophe. Most folks don't just one day go, yeah, you're right. This is an addiction. It's not good for me. Let's change my ways. Just that simple, right? No, most of these things, it takes several tries. A lot of broken promises you never intended to keep. Promises maybe you wanted to keep and see through when you said on the campaign trail, we got to address the national debt. We're mortgaging our children or grandchildren, the Americans yet born's future. Maybe you meant it. But you kind of knew in the back of your head that when the Congress gets doing what they do, that won't happen. We won't ever go cold turkey, and we won't even start a plan of rehabilitation from this addiction to debt and deficits. So again, I'm not surprised, but it is disappointing, especially with all that energy. And to have Trump turn around and say, we're going to sick DOGE maybe on Elon. Again, I take it as very performative. Elon's in the way. Elon's causing a big stink, so I'm going to cause a big stink back. And I think it is, at the end of the day, for Elon over the debt and deficit issue. This is why DOGE was headed up by the man in the first place. There is a little bit of a twisted irony there. I guess some might find it humorous that Trump would sick DOGE on Elon, thus becoming Elon's own Frankenstein monster. Honestly, I think it's a bunch of threats just in the moment. But we'll continue to watch where all this goes. Honestly, I can't wait. I only got about an hour left. Ready for a vacation. I can tell most of y'all are on vacation already. We'll be right back.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings, 6 till 9, and afternoons, 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/radio to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/radio. That's leaffilter.com/radio.
Are you tired of the mainstream media's biased reporting? Do you want to stay informed on the news that really matters to you? Look no further than 1819 News. At 1819 News, we bring you the latest in Alabama news, politics, sports, culture, and more. We've assembled a team of journalists with Alabama values dedicated to the truth and the truth alone. Visit us at 1819news.com today. That's 1819news.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Honest News, Alabama Values.
Hi, I'm Jane Ray, account executive with Blue Water Broadcasting. Why should you advertise with us? Radio is an active medium. It can create immediacy, driving shoppers to a specific store, brand, or to take a specific action. Radio ads engage with the audience in a personal and unique way. Contact me, Jane Ray, by going to bluewaterbroadcasting.com to find out more. Blue Water Broadcasting, local folks helping local business.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
On FM, on your smartphone, and online. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
How you conduct yourself?
in a democracy?
In politics, man must learn to rise above principle.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. You know, with the July 4th holiday, it's always good to revisit the history at times. And one aspect of the American Revolution sometimes is mentioned, I don't think enough. If you're trying to understand what led to what was a libertarian movement, a war of secession from the world's greatest empire at the time, one animated by love of individual rights. Who gave people the ammunition to think these things? Who reinforced these ideas? And you can throw a lot of names out there. But Cato's Letters by John Trenchard Thomas Gordon, they first began appearing in 1720 in the London Journal, reflecting the ideas of John Locke. So it's a slow burn. It's not until 50 years later, in 1776, that you get the revolution these two men laid the groundwork for realized. But it's been commented that Cato's Letters, its arguments against oppressive government and in support of the splendors of freedom, frequently served as the basis of the American response to the whole range of depredations under which the colonies suffered. And so as we hear all sorts of campaign promises to remake government, and far more frightening promises to have government remake us, Cato's Letter 38, the right and capacity of the people to judge of the government, is particularly important. Quoting from Cato's Letter number 38. The world has been led into such a long maze of mistakes by those who gained by deceiving, that whoever would instruct mankind must begin with removing their errors. Liberty is but little encouraged, there being oppressors and deceivers mutually aiding and paying constant court to each other. Wherever truth is dangerous, liberty is precarious. Most of us, most of those who manage government, would make the lower world believe that there is difficulty and mystery in it, which is direct craft and imposture. Every plowman knows a good government from a bad one, whether the fruits of his labor be his own, and whether he enjoy them in peace and security. The principles of government lie open to common sense, but people are generally taught not to think of them at all, or to think wrong of them. What is government but a trust committed to those who are to attend upon the affairs of all, that everyone may, with the more security, attend upon his own? A great and honorable trust, but too seldom honorably executed. Those who possess it having it often more at heart to increase their power than to make it useful. Therefore, a trust which ought to be bounded with many and strong restraints, every violation ought to meet with proportional punishment, because indulgence to the least faults of magistrates may be cruelty to a whole people. Good governors do not consider their people their prey. Ill governments are enemies to private property. There will be but little industry where property is precarious. Honesty, diligence, and plain sense are the only talents necessary for the executing of this trust, and the public good is its only end. As to refinements and finesses, they are often only the false appearance of wisdom, the arts of jobbers in politics playing their own game under the public cover. Public ministers and public enemies have been the same individual men. Every private man has a concern in government because in it is concerned his virtue, his property, and the security of his person. And where all these are best preserved and advanced, the government is best administered. What is the public but the collective body of private men? And as the whole ought to be concerned for the preservation of every private individual, it is the duty of every individual to be concerned for the whole. He who says that private men have no concern with government is saying that people ought not to concern themselves whether they be naked or clothed, fed or starved, deceived or instructed, and whether they be protected or destroyed. What nonsense and servitude in a free and wise nation. In truth, our whole worldly happiness and misery abating for accidents and diseases are owing to the order or mismanagement of government. It is the eternal interest of every nation that their government should be good, but they who direct it frequently find their own account in plunder and oppression. Again, Cato's letters was widely echoed by America's founders seeking to defend their liberty. And after decades of inflation and the degree of government intrusions at the expense of our liberty, it returns us to the essence of good government, whether the fruits of his labor be his own and whether he enjoy them in peace and security. When you look at that founding generation and the language, the ideas, helped to usher in that revolution, how far we have come from that. Maybe that's just the nature of becoming more powerful, more successful. These basic ideas will be tested, and maybe they have to be renewed. But maybe this week, as people celebrate the 4th of July, eat yourself a hot dog, fire off a firework, enjoy time with family. Be glad that you're free. Maybe not to the degree you wish, but be glad you're free compared to most nations that have ever been and currently exist. But also remember, take the time maybe to pick up Cato's letters or Thomas Paine's Common Sense and remind yourself of the ideas and the ideals that drove those men to create this nation. 272-9228. We should have Admiral Kent Davis here in a moment. Let's go to line 1. You're on there. Who's this?
Hello. You got me?
Yes.
Yes. I am calling about Chief Gray Boys, and I just had several thoughts about that. One is, I know he probably doesn't have a whole lot of answers for the prominent questions we all have as to how many we have on the force and why we only have that many on the force. But, a lot of people, a lot of citizens in Montgomery now are thinking, regardless of how good his heart might be or his intentions, we don't know, but he does work for the mayor. And we know that our mayor, like leaders of many other progressive, similar mindset mayors around the country, they're all having similar problems with defunding the police, demoralizing the police force, diminishing the police force, and therefore destroying the city. And our mayor has, even though he will talk out of one side of his mouth and say, I'm trying to increase our force. Well, we all talk to police friends, and we know what's going on in the force. It's a toxic environment. Nobody wants to work there. And if they hire one, they lose 3. Yeah. And that's why they won't tell us the numbers. But it's like he has painted several years ago when BLM began, which is the quintessential misnomer of all misnomers, because that organization is not helping Black lives, and by defunding the police and hurting their communities. But it'd be like naming a load of bricks your best flotation device. It's just a complete lie. But they painted it front and center in the most prominent spot he could find, right in front of our Capitol, all around our historic, beautiful fountain. And it's still there. He said it was temporary when he painted it, but he has not taken it down, even though he has been asked to. And BLM is all about defunding the police. It's embedded in their website. It used to be on the front page when they first began, but now it's on their front home page of their website. But now it's embedded, but it's all in there. And he's doing it. He's intentionally doing that. Gray Boys works for him. And he probably knows. I don't know if you were going to allow questions from the audience, but he probably doesn't have a whole lot of answers. I would assume.
Well, I'm up against the clock here, and your call's a good one. But he was supposed to be here yesterday, didn't show up. I don't know what happened.
I know. Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to get him back on to answer a lot of these questions. Yeah. But I've got a guest waiting on me, and so I need to hit my top of the hour break. But
all right.
I appreciate what you're laying down, and we'll be continuing this after the holidays.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Be right back, folks. Should have Admiral Kent Davis on the other side.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. The Senate has passed President Trump's big bill of tax breaks and spending cuts. 3 Republican senators, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Susan Collins of Maine, and Rand Paul of Kentucky, joined all Democrats in voting against it. Vice President J.D. Vance broke a 50-50 tie. The big, beautiful bill now heads back to the House. President Trump toured a new immigration detention facility in a remote area of the Florida Everglades. It's surrounded by alligator-filled swamps. He said the site could be a model for future projects as his administration races to expand the infrastructure necessary for increasing deportations. Televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has died. Swaggart was 90 years old. This is SRN News.
Hi, Mike Gallagher here. As the summer heats up, so do the bills. If you're like a lot of folks, you're not selling your home anytime soon, but that equity you've built, just sitting there. That's why I trust Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans. Love this place. It's in their name, their DNA. They're the team I've used personally, and they treat every client like family. Fellowship Home Loans. They know how to help you tap into your home's value wisely, whether that's a HELOC or a cash-out refi. Fellowship is a direct lender and operates with your best interest in mind. Maybe it's time to finally knock out that renovation, pay off some debt, or just add a little cushion to your retirement account. With rates still reasonable and inflation squeezing all of us, your home might be the smartest financial tool you've got right now. So if you're staying put this summer, make your home work for you. Visit my friends at Fellowship Home Loans, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819.
Rich Thomas weather, a service of Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, where over-the-road dump truck drivers are needed right now. Home twice a week and every weekend, must leave early on Sunday with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Call them now at 855-777-9785.
Rich Thomas weather.
Hi, everybody. No big surprises in today's forecast. I think the radar could be a little busier than yesterday. Today's high temperature 90 to 92, lots of humidity, a sun and cloud mix, and there will be a decent supply of those random storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Low tonight in the low to mid 70s. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Independence Day Friday, highs mostly in the lower 90s, a little hotter by the end of the week. And not quite as many storms on the radar each afternoon. You could still get a very heavy downpour, but not as many storms. They'll thin out just a bit. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Budget Floors and More is your low price leader for everything you need for flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies. For the best prices on luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, flooring installation supplies, and more, shop Budget Floors and More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey to Publix.
1819 News.
The attorney for the family of Jabari Peoples is now demanding the release of police body camera footage leading up to the shooting death of the 18-year-old at a soccer park in Hoover. Leroy Maxwell Jr. is the attorney who says that preliminary findings from an investigator that he hired to review the body chart of Peoples is now suggesting that the 18-year-old was shot in the back. An eyewitness who was in the vehicle with Peoples when a police officer approached is also claiming that Peoples did not have a gun in his hand at that time. The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency currently has control over the body camera footage, but has not shared its contents yet with the Peoples family. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
Did you know that 70% of people experience a potentially traumatic event in their lifetime, and that 6 out of every 100 adults face PTSD every day? Help us bring hope to these survivors by signing up for your Alabama Distinctive PTSD Awareness license plate today. The great thing is you can sign up no matter when your current plate renews, and the first year is complimentary. All you need is your VIN number on hand. Drive awareness, drive hope, and customize your plate today at atease.org.
An Irondale woman is now hospitalized after being trapped in her home for many hours after storms came through the area this past weekend. Lee Spearman was pinned under a tree that fell into her house. A neighbor saw the downed tree and the damage to the home and was able to contact Spearman, who had on her Apple Watch at the time. Spearman then told the neighbor she was trapped. State Representative David Standridge has refiled his bill to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The measure failed in Alabama's 2025 legislative session after a Senate filibuster was employed. It did pass the Alabama House with a vote along party lines. Standridge says the change aligns with a Trump executive order as well as other Gulf Coast states. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Hi, this is Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group with your Real Estate Minute. Recently, I met with 3 different owners of homes who had the same problem. They wanted to sell their house quick and sell it as is for cash. All 3 people were approached by different investors that said they had cash for their home, signed contracts, only to find out they were not personally going to buy their homes, but to find a buyer willing to pay more than they offered and pocket the difference. It's called wholesaling. Offer a contract to buy a house at a certain price, up to price to other buyers, and pocket the difference. I urge you, don't fall for it. You want to sell your home quick, use a licensed professional realtor, as I have been for 48 years, keeping promises to get homes sold quick. For all the details, call Bo Goodson at the Goodson Group at 221-2883 or 551-0225. Call Bo Goodson at 221-2883.
My name is Ariel. I moved to the U.S. at 19. I spoke no English and I struggled finding job opportunities. Everything I have, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and getting my high school diploma at age 22.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's News and Views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. And as promised, we have our guest right here in studio. Let's get right to it. We have Admiral Kent Davis here in the studio. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, Joey, I'm doing great. It's great to be back here.
Yeah, good to see you. And I mean, since we last saw each other, I imagine you've been busy all around the state.
Yeah, in fact, I'm headed to Birmingham after this. I've got a speaking engagement tonight up there at a veterans organization. I'm as busy as I've ever been. And of course, a little more news lately about me.
Sure. Well, I want to start on something, though, before we get into the meat of the news. A lot to discuss. This new organization you have, the River Region Veterans Coalition. What's it all about?
A great organization. They're off to a great start. So for decades in this state, there have been regional veterans coalitions down in Mobile. They have the South Alabama Veterans Council, which has literally been around for decades. They do great stuff. They work public-private sector to serve veterans. Gosh, probably 100 organizations involved in that, serving veterans. In Birmingham, they've had the Central Alabama Veterans Collaborative, a similar organization up in Huntsville. We've never had anything like that in Montgomery, despite the big veterans presence, the presence of Maxwell and Gunner, and it was time. So for several years, we've been talking about this. Groups from the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, some of the government agencies. So now that I had a little more time on my hands, I got together with some of those folks, and back in February, we just said, we're going to have the first meeting of this. We're averaging 60 people per meeting, about 40 organizations, again, government, private sector organizations, all in the spirit of we want to communicate better and, frankly, unify the veterans community and educate our elected officials, because we learned some hard lessons over the last 6 months, frankly, that some of our elected officials need a little education about veterans issues, veterans needs, how Veterans Affairs works. So we're off to a good start.
Well, and I like seeing that stood up because we have learned a lot. I was talking to you off air about how I try to maintain my ideals, but the cynicism on at least the political front, I can't be cynical when I got a 2-year-old needs to go see this week. But like on the political front, very cynical. And some of it was a bit heartbreaking to see what happened in this last legislative session. Of course, this all really begins with your ouster, unceremonious ouster from being Commissioner of Veterans Affairs here in the state. And y'all have now, I guess this was a couple weeks ago, dropped a lawsuit against the governor. What's sort of the main thrust of this suit?
We did. Well, there are quite a few counts, about 8 counts in that federal lawsuit. It's filed in federal court. Probably the main count is something called a Section 1983 and Section 1985 complaints. That's a pretty common phrase. I was a federal attorney, and I actually used to defend against cases like that. So I've got a lot of experience with that. Section 1983 cases, it comes from 42 U.S. Code, Section 1983. It's basically a civil rights code. If there's an infringement by state officials on constitutional rights, especially the Bill of Rights, First Amendment, it's applied to whistleblower retaliation and many other causes of action. That's just one. There's a defamation claim in there because you talk about character assassination. Here I am, a retired admiral, glowing comments up until that point, and then all of a sudden I was like the Antichrist, it seemed like overnight.
Right.
And a lot of public defamation, frankly, I think was unfortunate and unprofessional in some cases. I tried to be reasonable and professional. There are many other counts in there, interference with contract. I had a contract with the State Board of Veterans Affairs. There are anti-retaliation provisions in the state ethics code, very clear, black and white letter law. So we're going to go to court. That's the last resort sometimes, is you avail yourself of the court system. And I'm sorry it's come to this. I really am. I thought we had an agreement, and we did back in the fall, where I was going to quietly go away, and I held up my end of that bargain.
Well, and it seems like, I guess, the whistleblower aspect of this would be triggered by you filing that ethics complaint, and that ethics complaint seemed to then lead to the events of, your ouster. And then it seems like the board, the Veterans Affairs Board, had their own findings, didn't agree with the governor. That's where she pulls the Supreme Executive Authority out of somewhere. I'm not sure where. And you got to wonder, I guess this will be found out in court as this plays out. Why exactly was this done? Because we've covered the general thrust of the story, but the details still are a little mysterious.
Yeah, Joey, I'm really impressed with a number of people who have called me, contacted me, some people I didn't even know, who have said, I have information. I was part of conversations. I think what happened to you was wrong. I want to help. So a lot of people are going to get subpoenas, summons in this lawsuit. And there's going to be some embarrassing information. And I think people will be surprised at the people who have talked to me and others and my attorneys about things that they're aware of. You mentioned the State Board of Veterans Affairs. Unfortunately, this is a classic case of being caught between a rock and a hard place. It was the State Board of Veterans Affairs that originally came to me, 3 of the members, and asked me to file that ethics complaint and outlined quite a few concerns. And I told them, you understand, under the state ethics code, I'm now obligated to report it. And I'm taking a neutral stance. I will report what you've tendered to me. I'll talk to the witnesses that you've given me information about. It's up to the Ethics Commission. Well, things changed 180 degrees once word got out to the governor's office about that ethics complaint. A lot of people have told me that was, they heard some interesting comments when the governor's office found out about that ethics complaint.
Well, and again, this will play out in the courts, in the federal court.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep watching that. I guess this all depends on the judge. Is there an expected timeline? How this plays
Judges
out?
have been appointed in the case.
Right.
It's in the Central District and Federal Court. So at the trial level, there's been a trial judge appointed and a magistrate judge appointed in the case. So we're proceeding. The governor's answer will be due in the next few weeks. So we'll see how they respond. I expect there'll either be an answer or some kind of motion to dismiss. That's pretty common and to be expected, but good luck.
And there's another wrinkle to this. Maybe my least favorite in the delegation, because you try to like most of these folks as people. I try, but I've never been able to warm up to Congressman Mike Rogers, and it seems like his office played a role in trying to get you fired as commissioner.
Yeah, they tried to block my appointment as commissioner back in 2019.
This goes way back.
It goes way back. I'm going to write a book about this one day. People wouldn't believe it. It goes back almost 20 years. It goes back to events, believe it or not, in Iraq. One of Mike Rogers' staffers served in Iraq. He did not have a real noble end to his Army career. I was on the opposite end of that, U.S. Central Command. One of his senior staffers had it out for me for a long time. And I got to tell you, I was the city manager in Anniston. I worked for Homeland Security in Anniston, and I was pretty critical of Mike Rogers and his staff for their lack of support sometimes. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2012. My bosses in Homeland Security asked me to write up a legal action that would repeal a bill that Mike Rogers had written because it was detrimental to Homeland Security. I did it, and a threat was tendered that we know who wrote this action, and basically we're going to go after him. Well, they did. That staffer blew my cover as a whistleblower with Homeland Security. FEMA had some real problems. Del Marsh called me one day in 2015. I had a long conversation with Del Marsh. Richard Shelby's staff called me. I reported to them. So I was clearly a whistleblower. Word got to Mike Rogers' staff, and I know that one of his staffers went over and met with FEMA officials. I know the name, the date. It took me 6 years through legal actions. I finally, through a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, got the documents. I have the notes from that meeting where his staff intentionally blew my cover as a whistleblower in a FEMA action. I was exonerated by FEMA, and everything that I had complained about came to fruition. They did their own internal investigation and shut down the facility that I had tendered complaints about for a year. Basically fired the superintendent of the facility, and several of the other players who were involved in it were disciplined as well. But I ended up leaving my job because they blew my cover as a whistleblower. The heat became so hot for me. And then, as if that weren't enough, in 2019, and I heard this directly from Joe Bonner, who was chief of staff for the governor, they called the governor's office and tried to block my appointment as commissioner of Veterans Affairs when I was officially chosen by the State Board of Veterans Affairs. And apparently at that time, ironically, the governor's office told them to pound sand that he's appointed by the State Board of Veterans Affairs and we have nothing to do with that. And then we get to 2024 and suddenly that legal reasoning changes.
Man, it's just the how sometimes the personal aspect of things can get so I'm following the thread here correctly. It's because of action you doing at your job at Central Command. I'd imagine law, and we don't have to get into the details of that guy went on to be a staffer necessarily, but wasn't honorable, as you put it. And because you're following through on, I don't have the details, you kind of put it out there vaguely. But it starts, that's the seed, which is crazy to me.
This goes way back. You want to know why Americans, Alabamians are so disgusted with politics these days? It's usually not about ideology because we can usually disagree on things respectfully and have polite disagreements. It's the personal behaviors, the pettiness, the vindictiveness, the egos, the power grabs, and the forgetting that our elected officials work for us, not the other way around, that I think people are kind of disgusted with. Yeah. They're fed up with. And I see it. I hear it all the time. I really hear it in the veterans community. In the veterans community, the attitude is, I took an oath to this country. I put my life on the line. Some got wounded. Some had near-death experiences. And yet they come back and they see that, especially from those who didn't serve. And it's kind of repulsive because you serve in combat especially, and you're driven by things, as corny as it may sound to some people, you're driven by things like honor, courage, and commitment. And you come back here and you see some of the behaviors that we see in politics these days, and it is discouraging. But non-veterans too, I think, have a right to question all of that and say, why have we put up with this? In that checks and balances system, what happened to the checks and balances between the people and the politicians?
Right.
We talk about checks and balances amongst the three branches of government, but I think we've forgotten about between the people and the politicians.
Yeah, somebody was asking me about, again, this whole, like, why aren't you really hitting, say, the libertarian ideals? And I have had a shift where I've been trying to think through what explains the behavior I'm seeing. Like, what's the best frame of reference to understand what I'm seeing? And the more I watch, especially play out in the media, it's more like I'm watching a Shakespeare play.
Oh, yeah.
Where it is the personal motivations, vendettas, the wonderful virtues as well as vices of people, and they collide in unique ways. And we'd like to be able to have those gentlemen's disagreements or agreements and come to deals. But it does seem like the personal is always sort of getting in the way. And of course, you add power to that, and it's kind of a nasty mix.
Oh, and it got personal against me. I always tried to act nobly. Listen, you don't get selected for flag officer, general officer in the military if you've got blemishes in your past.
Right.
But the personal assaults that I have endured, and it goes back to what we were saying, there were conversations, I know, with some state legislators, with the aforementioned congressman staff and others. It's a small handful. I will tell you, most state legislators have been very supportive, and some have called me, said, can we keep this off the record? I wish they'd be a little more courageous, but that's okay. They've shown personal support, told me they disagreed with what happened. They've even shared information about pressures that were placed on people. But, I think Lord Acton got it right when he said power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. We treat politicians like celebrities these days, and I think it goes to their head. I've seen many, many great people that I had high respect for get elected. Something changes in their psyche when they get in office. Not always. And I still think there are some great people in office, and, I can name the good ones.
Right. Well, and you mentioned working at FEMA, and we're blowing the whistle on some stuff, but I'd imagine it's what you saw and were calling out, but just generally working there. I know a lot of things that the Biden administration was doing is being redirected by President Trump. He's just visited, what are they calling it? Alligator, Alcatraz, or something to that effect. And I think FEMA's playing a role there. But I mean, what did you see at FEMA that was so rotten?
Well, let me go back. So a lot of people don't realize I had a dual career. I was military and civilian. After 9/11, I joined the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the brand new Department of Homeland Security. I thought that was a way to get back in the fight. Also did several deployments on active duty, went to Afghanistan, participated in Operation Iraqi Freedom and all of that. So 2 jobs. I started out in Washington, D.C. with Homeland Security working for Tom Ridge as secretary. Great guy. I was one of 5 attorneys assigned to him way back in 2003. I got deployed to Hurricane Katrina in 2005 for 6 months down to South Louisiana, Mississippi. Whew. I'm telling you, the Department of Defense saved that entire operation. FEMA was not prepared for that. They were inefficient. There was some corruption going on. It opened my eyes quite a bit to some of the criticisms that I think were justified. Now, after that, there was a law passed called the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act. Ironically, that law transferred my job into FEMA. But I will tell you, my personal experience with FEMA was it was a bloated organization, inefficient. I think there is an alternative. My vision of an alternative is pretty simple. There is a mechanism out there called the Emergency Management Assistance Compact that all 50 states have signed on to. The National Guard is heavily involved in disaster response. That's one of their main missions. I think it's a little duplicative now that you have the bureaucracy of FEMA also working for Homeland Security, another bureaucracy overseeing natural disaster responses, when you've got EMAC, the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, and you've got the National Guard. And I will tell you, in an emergency situation, a military organization is much better suited, in my humble opinion, to handle a situation like that. It's the closest thing that I can think of to a wartime situation. So I think there are some alternatives that would be more efficient, more taxpayer friendly, and ultimately probably save lives in the end. I think it's time for that hard look at that organization.
Well, and it's happening across the board. It's like every major institution in the federal government and others that aren't necessarily government, but within the federal government, really needs a look over from top to bottom. At least a look over, if not outright restructuring. We were just playing before you got here a little bit of RFK Jr. and what he's doing over being the health secretary. I mean, you look at every nook and cranny of this government, it seems like we've been on autopilot and people have just been looking the other way saying, yeah, it might be corrupt, but who am I to rock the boat? And if I try, who's going to actually change it? It does seem like there's actually energy, at least with this current president, for better or for worse, to tackle some of these issues.
I hope so. Whether you like President Trump or not, I happen to like him. I don't always agree with him. Who does?
Right.
But every once in a while, I do think you need to hit the reset button and take a step back and think, maybe our fundamental way of operating needs to be changed. And I think we're at one of those moments, and I hope it does happen.
Yeah, I'm hopeful as well. And I'm wondering with the next campaign coming up here in Alabama, the 2026 cycle, if new leadership maybe can bring that energy here to the state.
I hope so. I hope what we're seeing at the federal level, whether you agree with it ideologically or not, I hope that's duplicated here in Alabama. It's time. We've been going along with the status quo in the state for a long time. Look, I was born here. I was born right downtown Montgomery. My roots are in the state. I love this state. I want to see this state succeed and do as well as it can. But I think we need a hard look in this state. We need a different mindset in our politics. There needs to be a little more power back to the people, and especially local populations.
Yes.
I mean, there is a lot of conglomeration of power down at that state house and on Goat Hill. That's not the ideal solution. We were talking about this earlier. We have a libertarian tradition in this country of the people controlling things. And I do think government that's closest to the people operates the best.
Yes.
And we've gotten away from that.
And then you just look at basic contradictions. Some might lean into it, say, oh, they're ironies. This is just the nature of power. We have a Republican supermajority, and they talk a great game on the campaign trail of limited government. And yet I think the government's cost and scope to a degree has continued to grow under this Republican supermajority.
Absolutely. Almost exponentially in some cases.
And
that's a shame.
How do we even begin to rein that in? And, I've gotten to know some of these guys and talked to them. And it seems like, for instance, the ETF is untouchable. I think the best vehicle, it'll probably make some people pull their hair out, like this kid doesn't know anything. But the best vehicle for big change in Alabama is you combine the budgets. Because that sort of goal, it requires you to look at everything.
Oh, listen, I learned the hard way. The chairs of those budget committees have a lot of power, and there's a lot of deal making made. You probably know that, Joey.
Sure.
Listen, I got steamrolled a few times for criticizing that process sometimes. And my former department got steamrolled in the Education Trust Fund. Dependent scholarships for disabled veterans for their dependents were cut heavily. That came from the Education Trust Fund. And my protest was, how can you claim that you're trying to improve benefits for veterans when you do something like that? It's kind of ironic, some of the claims that are made. I do think there needs to be our own version of DOGE in this state. I thought it was kind of funny when one legislator wrote an op-ed saying, well, we already have our version of that. It's called the Republican Party. Really? You've increased the size of government by 30 to 40% in some cases?
Yeah, and Senator Orr said, no, we have this thing called ACEs. And I took him to task for that. And actually, maybe another irony, he was right, because you look at, I think DOGE at the federal level has been somewhat muzzled and leashed, which is just sad to see.
There's not a lot of oversight. We talk about checks and balances. We don't have an inspector general's office in the state to look into corruption. There's no recall procedures for politicians in the state. Only a few of the offices have term limits. And I don't care what anybody says. You hear it say, well, we have term limits. They're called elections. No, we don't. I mean, incumbents get elected, like 95% of the time because of the name recognition. They build up war chests. It's not a fair fight. again, I think there needs to be a checks and balances system with things like a DOGE system for efficiency review, an inspector general system. Listen, I know I'm biased. I don't have a lot of faith in the ethics system right now, but there are a lot of other people who have been rightly critical of our ethics system. I have seen ethics systems that worked very, very well. I don't think we have that in this state. I used to be a federal ethics attorney, and our ethics code needs a lot of work in this state.
Again, folks, we're talking to Admiral Kent Davis, and I got to hit a break here, but we can keep the conversation going. And it's off the top of my mind, not to put you on the spot, but are you thinking about running for any sort of office in this cycle upcoming?
You know, Joe, I've been very flattered. Right now, I'm not. I mean, There's still several months window to jump into a race. I got to tell you, the field is pretty good. It's pretty full, and it's tough to jump in as kind of an unknown,
right?
With no war chest. Now, I've been really flattered the last few months, the outpouring of support. I didn't even come up with this idea. There were some op-eds written. A gentleman stood up at a big forum and asked me if I was running for governor at one point, and it just kind of by osmosis spread, and people have been encouraging me. Right now, I've got enough battles. And not to sound, I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm still recuperating from stage 3 cancer. I've got a health battle. Got another legal battle on my hands. And frankly, I'm enjoying my civic activities. I just finished a tour as president of Rotary Club, and I'm involved in the River Region Veteran Coalition. I've got plenty to keep me busy.
Well, let's hit this break. If you stick around, I kind of want to get into the July 4th feeling, if we can. I think It'd be good to touch on that. Before we hit the break, this part of the program, folks, brought to you by Josh and Leslie Ryder. They're at Dillon Rings. And at Dillon Rings, again, they are a full-service jewelry shop ready to help you out, whether you're looking to buy some great items there. They have a wonderful inventory from high-end items to everyday jewelry that looks great, but it won't break the bank or break your heart maybe if you wear it out on the beach or something and lose it. But, they have all sorts of options there. They do custom design work made by Josh. The guy is a genius artist when it comes to crafting jewelry. They can also do repair work, spa treatments to clean up that favorite jewelry of yours you wear all the time. They do appraisals. Maybe you got a bunch of old stuff that's broken that you don't really want fixed. You just want to get it off your hands. You've kind of forgot about it sitting in a drawer there. Well, they buy old jewelry like gold, silver, platinum. So the point is they do it all there at Dillon Rings. Get by 119 Brown Springs Road here in Montgomery, that's just off Atlanta Highway. And be sure to tell them that Joey, that fella on the radio, sent you.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
What's your biggest investment? More than likely, it's your home. So treat it that way when you hire a painting contractor. With PBS Painting, there are no gimmicks. No $99 specials, just quality painting and someone who treats your home with the same respect that you do. At PBS Painting, we have been painting for years and look forward to many more years to come. With PBS Painting, the job gets prepped properly, whether it's cleaning, scraping, or priming. We always use quality products, which is a must for a quality paint job. So if you're looking for a painter that doesn't need upfront money and is on the job at all times, then please give me a call. Scott Bowers and PBS Painting, 294-5122. That's PBS Painting, 294-5122. Look at some of our work on Facebook at PBS Painting Montgomery.
Sell your house the easy way. Call Rapid Fire Home Buyers today.
Do you have real estate problems? Whether you're facing foreclosure, inherited a property, or have costly repairs, we understand. At Rapid Fire Home Buyers, we're here to help. Any condition, any situation, we'll give you an honest cash offer for your home so you can move forward. We've dealt with more real estate problems than anyone else in the River Region. If you're dealing with foreclosure, major repairs, or having trouble selling your home, we will buy your house today. We've worked with hundreds of homeowners in the River Region. It's easy to get started. Just call 334-675-1000 to claim your cash offer today. That's 334-675-1000. Because when real estate problems cause uncertainty, you deserve a solution you can trust. Any condition, any situation, we're here to help. Call 334-675-1000 to claim your cash offer for your house.
Sell your house the easy way. Call Rapid Fire Home Buyers today.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com. This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Experience the local flavor at Epicure and Jack's Tavern. Their lunch special includes carefully crafted dishes, a drink, and bread for only $9.99 for seniors and $13.99 for others. They prepare every meal from scratch each day using local ingredients. No fast food here, just wholesome, delicious meals made with love. Visit them at Epicure and Jack's Tavern and taste the difference local makes.
Here at Adams Drugs, we let our customers do the talking. I'm here with Ronnie Taunton, who was a longtime customer of Adams Drugs, moved away for 3 years, and came back to town recently. Ronnie, what did you do for another pharmacy when you moved out of town?
When we moved to Fairhope, we were looking for a local. We did not want to go to a big box store. And we did find one, but the service was not up to par. Adams Drug really spoiled us.
What was it like to come back to Adams Drugs again?
It was very easy. We picked up the phone when we got back, came up to Prattville and called the branch there in Prattville, and they took that phone call and did the rest of it. We didn't have to do a thing. It was very simple. We're glad to be back with them. They're so efficient and customer service oriented.
Come in to any of our 12 Adams Drugs locations. Visit us at adamsdrugs.net to find the location nearest you. Adams Drugs is your independently owned Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, taking the time to listen and care.
Weather service of H&H Carpets, where right now, get a load of this, listen close, you get a house full of carpet for $19.95 installed. Unbelievable. They're located at 6450 Atlanta Highway, just across from Walmart.
Rich Thomas weather.
Hi, everybody. No big surprises in today's forecast. I think the radar could be a little busier than yesterday. Today's high temperature 90 to 92, lots of humidity, a sun and cloud mix, and there will be a decent supply of those random storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Low tonight in the low to mid 70s. And then for Wednesday, Thursday, and Independence Day Friday, highs mostly in the lower 90s, a little hotter by the end of the week. And not quite as many storms on the radar each afternoon. You could still get a very heavy downpour, but not as many storms. They'll thin out just a bit. From the Blue Water Weather Center, this is Rich Thomas.
Hey, this is Jody Pangle with Peaches and Clean. Have you gone with luxury vinyl tile and luxury vinyl planking in your home? Peaches and Clean cleans luxury vinyl tile and planking. Give us a call. We'd love to come look at it and get you an estimate or quote for your cleaning. Check us out at peachesandclean.com.
When news happens, you'll hear about it first. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back, folks. Again, in studio, we have Admiral Kent Davis. And, before, I don't know if you heard me while you were in the lobby, but I started quoting a little bit of Cato's letters. And it's always, I think, a healthy exercise and in times inspiring. Just go back and read the founding generation and not just like the highlights, like the Declaration. That's always great. But read the stuff that really animated people over that century that led up to the Revolution. I think those folks would look at what we currently have now and they'd be in our face about it. These ideals still drive us, but I think we play more lip service in the way those folks lived it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if our founding fathers were alive today, I think they'd be libertarians. And you mentioned Cato. That's why we have the Cato Institute today, which is a leading libertarian organization. Right over in Auburn, we have the Mises Institute.
Yeah, Mises Institute, yeah.
Mises. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but a great libertarian economic theory, the Austrian economic theory, which is solid, in my opinion.
Yeah, the guy who ran it for about a decade, Jeff Deist, is a regular on the show here.
Good guy. I've met him.
Very solid dude. And he invited me to MC event. That's where I met Judge Napolitano and a lot of great folks down there. And I've learned a lot from them, the economic side in particular. But they have a lot of great political philosophy. And for folks who don't know this, the guy who really, Ludwig von Mises, kind of starts this classical liberal movement. I believe he's German. He writes in a whole 1,000-page economic treatise in German, but escapes the war, comes to America, has to rewrite it, does it in English, in a different language. And it gets a little wonky, but the insights are pretty remarkable. And then it got more into political economy and political theory. The guy who takes the ball and runs with it from Mises is Murray Rothbard. And Rothbard, if you look at, say, Javier Milei in Argentina, when he says, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, we're looking at Rothbard in many cases.
He's picked up that playbook in Argentina, and you look at the results already.
Right.
It's been pretty dramatic. Now, I do think in this country we have some who are cut out of that same mold. You were talking about Rand Paul earlier.
Sure.
I think he's probably a libertarian.
I'm Thomas Massey, too.
Thomas Massey. It's strange. They're both from Kentucky. You got to wonder what's going on in Kentucky.
But Rothbard has this, it's long, but it's one of these several volumes, like 4 or 5 volumes of history of the colonial era. So the pre-Revolutionary War, called Conceived in Liberty. And it's not necessarily something you have to read straight through, folks. You can just pick up certain little portions, and I'm going to butcher this because I'm just doing it from memory from reading it 5-6 years ago. But like you find little stories, like there is a town in Pennsylvania that continues to defy the British governor, not outright. Everything had to be stamped with a particular legal stamp. And somehow they just kept losing the stamp. And it's these little moments of pushing back against authority in a way where it's at the personal, at the level of the people, and come up with creative ways to push back against authority.
Well, this is a perfect segue. We're about to celebrate the 4th of July. If you look at the Declaration of Independence and the whole founding of our nation, it was built on the premise that there should be an inherent mistrust of government, especially overly powerful government and centralized government. And I hope that people this 4th of July will step back and think about that and think, how did we get off track in that? How do we give so much power to government, especially over the last few decades? And look, some people have said there's a uniparty that Republicans talk about smaller government. I haven't seen a lot of smaller government out of Republicans.
No.
I mean, I will say one thing about libertarians: when the few instances when they do get into power, they get behind their words. Argentina is a prime example.
Oh, and it works too. Like all the whaling and gnashing of teeth, as they cut, I think 70%. Can you imagine the federal workforce being slashed by 70%? They screamed just a little bit with a few thousand with DOGE.
I've seen a lot of inefficiency in government.
And
there's room for cuts and better spending of the taxpayer dollars. There is no doubt in my mind.
I think about that question you just raised of what happened. And I think the hard problems that are they really are, I think, hard problems, and they're more, I think, objects of discussion, to really think through. Technology did change things. So, say, World War II and how rapid technology develops in the midst of the war, culminating in the bomb. The bomb is a very, if you could be a libertarian, you could be any sort of ideology. You look at the bomb and you're like, that's just a hardcore, hard-boiled reality we all have to deal with in one way or the other. And I think it's also a combination of, say, stuff like that. You could maybe find a few other instances where just technology changed human organizations. But then I just look at our wealth. I think that's what's happened is we've become so dynamic of a society and so wealthy that we're able to get away with a lot of, let's say, mistakes and a lot of graft and corruption, and we still keep on ticking, even though there's a lot to feed off of by the folks that are, say, mooching off the system.
You know, it's funny you mentioned nuclear weapons. I actually used to be a nuclear weapons officer, key holder on a battleship. And I used to think about that. Think about the power that it's a 2-person rule always to unlock those nuclear weapons. But I used to think about that power, that ultimate power of government. My gosh, in that one weapon. There was a time in this country where most of what we did in our lives was controlled by things like family and faith and just the inherent good of people, and you relied on good moral standing of the population. Somehow we've replaced that, especially in the last few decades. And it's been, I think, mission creep, or we've replaced that with government making those decisions.
Yeah.
I think that's dangerous.
I agree.
That's really dangerous. You talk about it all the time on your show. I even get on my fellow Republicans when they do things. I say, wait a minute. Why would you want the government to have that power? Why wouldn't you want to empower families and individuals and faith-based organizations to make those decisions? I think you'll find a society runs a lot better if you do that.
Yeah, and I'd say it, and folks again say, oh, it's cynical. I'm like, I think this is just the reality. It's just one force in the world we have to account for. I think politics, the way it's been practiced through human history, is the practice of force and fraud. And sometimes the fraud's not even conscious. The force isn't even necessarily violent. You're not talking about necessarily the worst abuses. But that's always there, and it needs to be constrained by things like you just described, faith and family, and having good standing in community. And the more we rely on the political making decisions to like what in our world now is not touched by political decisions. I think you're inviting more and more of that force and fraud, more of that potential corruption, and it can be with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
But you still have it all the same.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and we've seen that throughout government. Here's what happens when you give too much power to government. You get everything from the Tuskegee syphilis experiments to the siege at Ruby Ridge to Dr. Fauci and all the COVID actions he took.
Oh, and
how's that for a range of actions that everybody ought to step back and say, sometimes government can be dangerous.
Oh, and some crimes are like the idea of the perfect crime. There's the whole you alone, acting alone, kill some random person, you can get away with murder. But then there's another way where the scene is so contaminated. You get everybody's fingerprints on, say, the murder weapon, and I think that's what Fauci pulled off. It's like under the guise of we're doing this in public health, that he got a lot of people's fingerprints on that murder weapon, and he acts like he's above it. Though I hope, you mentioned Rand Paul earlier, that guy needs to be subpoenaed, brought in front of the Congress. At this point, with so much of what we've learned.
Yeah, I agree.
The abuses are crazy, and maybe we're at a point where it depends on the year, where I'll look at, say, the founding generation and what we're celebrating this week, and I have nothing but inspiration and make it a little wistful and a little bit of a glimmer in my eye. And then there are other years where I look at what's happening now, and I shake my head. Like, this is a mockery of that revolution.
Yeah, we've talked about institutions and basic philosophies. I sound like an old fuddy-duddy saying this. You look at our founding fathers, the sacrifices they made to found this country. Most people have no idea the risk that they took. I mean, with their lives, their wealth. But you don't have to go back that far. I think back to what we've called the greatest generation of World War II. My gosh. Look, I'm biased. My father was one of them. He was a student at Auburn University, got drafted in the Army, was an infantryman, got wounded badly, almost lost his leg in the Battle of the Bulge. I never heard that guy complain once about the lot in life that he had to go through. He came back, he finished his degree at Auburn, went on to a successful career, and worked his tail off.
Yeah.
Never griped at all about anything, never thought he was owed anything. I've tried to impart that to my kids, and I hope a lot of people do. And it goes back to what we talked about. The best run societies are the ones that are self-regulating, that operate on family, faith, friends, the support of others, and you make good moral choices. And unfortunately, we've replaced that with government institutions way too much. And I think everybody, you need some level of government,
Sure.
Obviously. I'm not talking anarchy, but it's a little ridiculous. And Alabama has gotten a reputation for being one of the most overregulated and one of the most protectionist states. And Brian Dawson talks about it all the time, one of the most corrupt states in the country. And it's usually not, people skimming off public dollars and putting them in their pockets, although that does happen. It's more the power grabbing, steering contracts, looking the other way sometimes, not following the letter of the law.
And could use an example of when you have terrible outcomes, say in a public education system, that you dump most of the money that the state is taking from the citizens of the state, and it still has bad outcome after bad outcome after. But that's another type of corruption. That's just
That's not the answer. There are plenty of examples. A famous example was when federal courts ordered the Kansas City school system to spend a lot more money. So they spent billions and billions of dollars. Test scores didn't go up at all.
Yeah.
That's a classic case.
I remember
There's
that.
actually a great 60-minute story on that. I experienced this here in Alabama. I was the city manager in Anniston, Alabama. Anniston public schools didn't have a great reputation. Well, they were failing. The state was threatening to take them over. And the answer was always, well, the city just needs to appropriate more money to them. And I said, okay, first of all, that's not our responsibility. There's a school board that's supposed to take care of the finances of the school system. If they think they need more money, they need to make that argument to the public and get it before the voters. And secondly, I pointed out in a public meeting, the Anniston school system spends more per capita on students than any of the surrounding school systems. Sometimes by far. There are only like 2 districts in the entire state that spend more per student. So is that really the answer?
No, and I think when you give somebody that you give something to somebody, say, here's the answer, and you just know it's not, that again is another form of corruption. But hey, I got to hit my last break. I kind of enjoyed this. I enjoyed the first half, but I really enjoyed the second half, just, kicking around ideas, what's coming to the top of mind. It's what I do. It's what I do. I sometimes wish I had the discipline and training of someone like yourself, but I don't know if it was in my personality.
We mentioned it during the break. You're probably going to get some phone calls after this. I'm sure I will.
Well, I appreciate it as always. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Joey.
We'll be right back.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings, 6 till 9, and afternoons, 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
It's time to butter up with Biscuits Baseball in 2025. Join us at Riverwalk Stadium for all of our Day of the Week promotions, including tacos and tall boys on Tuesdays, Military Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursday, Max Fireworks Saturdays, and Lil Crumbs and Bark in the Park on Sundays. For tickets and more information, visit biscuitsbaseball.com or call us at the box office at 323-BALL. Butter up.
Hey, this is David Little from Tucker Pecan Company. We've been advertising with Blue Water Broadcasting for over 10 years now, and the results have been amazing. Every day we have new customers that come in that have heard us on all the different radio stations that we advertise on. If you want to help your business grow, the best way to do it is through radio advertising through Blue Water Broadcasting. They do a great job in promoting our business and helping us grow our business, and hopefully they can help you grow your business too.
Blue Water Broadcasting is the #1 most listened to radio group in the River region. Find out how to put this reach to work for your business. Call us to find out how we can help. Blue Water Broadcasting. Local folks helping local business.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is #1 in the #2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
The premier place the River region turns to for news, weather, traffic, and opinion. News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
Welcome back, folks. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Ray Bowles from Prattville Carpet. Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Man, I am great. How you guys doing?
Oh, life is all right. Ready to go on vacation.
You're leaving tomorrow, right?
I am, early.
I tell you, the last time I went to Nashville, man, it had to be, we were going to go watch a Jimmy Buffett concert, and the girls were, I don't think Taylor was even born yet. And I bought front row seats because it was Angie's bucket list for Jimmy Buffett, and we stayed in the train station. And the night we get there, it sounds like a train is coming through. And I called down to the front desk and said, man, I really do not want to complain, but it sounds like a train's coming through our room. The air conditioner was right behind the headboard, and a bolt broke loose.
Ooh.
So every time the air, and then the next morning we were supposed to go to the concert, we get a call from the girls. They said, Mom, Dad, don't be scared. We're okay. And that's the last call you want to have, right?
Right. Oh.
Yeah, we just got rear-ended. I looked at Angie and I said, we're going home, aren't we? She said, she was packing her bags. As soon as they said it, she'd already packing her bags.
Goodness.
Yeah, the
great.
only saving grace on that whole deal, I did buy insurance on it because I said, this is too good of a trip. Something's going to go wrong. And sure enough, the girls got in a wreck and we came home. So, yeah, the last time I went to Nashville, I spent one night there and came home.
Well, I don't know if I appreciate that or not. I got to drive up there myself. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so I hope you get more than one night out of it. I'm never coming back. It's cursed.
Yeah, y'all still selling flooring over there?
We are, matter of fact. And, hey, the kitten's doing great.
Oh,
we
nice.
found the name.
You did?
May.
May?
Don't ask me. I don't name them. I just go get their food. That's all I do. But
So
it's doing great.
Tuxedo Kitty named May. I like that.
Yes, and yes, we are still selling floors. Call us 358-117. We got a big event coming up starting July 3rd. It's going to be the Fergo event with 12 months famous cash on select products and up to $1,000 rebate on select products. So when you call in, ask us about that.
Again, folks, for Prattville Carpet, that's 285-8117. Be sure to tell them that you heard Ray Bowles on the radio with that Joey fella.
And I'll talk to you on Monday. Yeah, Monday.
Monday. Yeah, look forward to it. Appreciate it, Ray. Have a good
great trip.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, I think I've only got about a minute left, and the happy hour will commence. Pamela's feeling better, which is good to see.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm glad you're all right.
Oh my God, it was a day.
Mm.
Yeah, but I am feeling much better.
Well, and I guess I'm going to get out of here because I'm ready to go. I got a lot more to actually put together, or I'm actually done. So.
No.
Y'all stay tuned.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. President Trump's big, beautiful bill now heads back to the House. That's after the Senate narrowly passed the legislation. U.S. job openings unexpectedly rose in May, showing resilience in the labor market despite high borrowing costs and rising economic uncertainty. The Labor Department reports that employers posted 7.8 million vacancies. That's up from 7.4 million in April. Job openings remain historically high, but have declined since their peak in March 2022. Hurricane Flossie has strengthened to a Category 2 storm off Mexico's Pacific coast. The National Hurricane Center reports the storm has maximum sustained winds now of 100 miles per hour. On Wall Street, stocks remain mixed. The Dow up 471 points, the Nasdaq losing 133. This is SRN News.
3 years ago, I wrapped up a run of Annie playing Daddy Warbucks with the South Carolina Children's Theater. I was about 40, 50 pounds overweight, tired, sick, fed up with the way I felt. Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. I had to do something. I scheduled my weight loss consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. And as they say, the rest is history. Just a few months, I lost over 50 pounds. I took control of my health. 3 years later, I've kept the weight off and I feel better than ever. If you are where I was, do what I did. Call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. It'll change your life. It's fast, it's simple. They won't let you fail. Just give them a call at 855-696-2020 to schedule your weight loss consultation. That's 855-696-2020. 855-696-2020. Here's the best